What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 8C Chapter 191. Invitation. The direction Ichigo and Yoruichi are walking is the forest of Manos Grande, because I feel that there is a lot of empty Ryotsu. So I plan to take a look somewhere, and kill some by the way. And after Ichigo and Yoruichi came, Aizen Sosuke found the traces of Ichigo and Yoruichi, but when he was about to feel it, he couldn't feel it, and the Arankars below him didn't notice Ichigo and Yoruichi's Ryotsu at all. So Aizen Sosuke said with a smile, "Okay, Hueko Mundo has a distinguished friend, but he seems to be very shy, so I hope to meet up." Hearing this, Arankar was stunned for a moment, then felt it, and found that there was no trace of anyone at all, so Ulquiorra Cipher respectfully asked Aizen Sosuke, "Who is it, Lord Aizen?" And Aizen Sosuke was sitting on the throne, leaning his chin with his hand and looking at Arankar below with a smile. "Of course it's my opponent, Kurosaki Ichigo." Hearing this, everyone was stunned. After the reaction, everyone was very embarrassed, because Ichigo's strength was very strong, and all of them felt that they were not enough for Ichigo to sharpen their fists, so they were very frightened. Because they are afraid that Ichigo will impatiently kill them all, of course, this is also the thought of several people, and of course Coyote Stark, Tyr Harabel, Ulquiorra Cipher and other people don't think so, and they are most dissatisfied with Aizen Sosuke Baragan Louisenbairn, the original king of the virtual circle, doesn't think so. He felt that this time Aizen Sosuke must have killed his Arankars, so they were sent to death. Of course, he thought so in his heart, but he didn't dare to express his thoughts, because although he did not fear Aizen as much as he feared Ichigo Sosuke, but the current Aizen Sosuke's strength is much stronger than him, so as a conspirator, of course he has to make a move. After Arankar was so surprised, Ulquiorra Cipher first replied respectfully to Aizen Sosuke, "I follow your orders." The remaining Espada also reacted, and after Ulquiorra's respectful answer to Aizen Sosuke said with satisfaction, "CGBE. Okay, remember, this is not the time for me to fight Kurosaki Ichigo. This is not the time for me to fight Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki Ichigo knows a little bit, so you don't have to worry too much about what Kurosaki Ichigo will do to you." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief when they heard this, and Aizen Sosuke continued, "But, even so, if you treat him disrespectful, or make him angry, then I don't know what will happen to you." This sentence made them swallow again. "Okay, let's go look for him first." Aizen Sosuke said and let them all go, and Espada nodded, and then turned away, and Tusen Kanami, who was next to Aizen Sosuke, turned to Aizen Sosuke said, "Aizen-sama, isn't it too dangerous, because we don't know what Kurosaki Ichigo's purpose is now, what if he is to get rid of us, so aren't we very dangerous?" He said worriedly. After hearing this, Aizen Sosuke said confidently, "The more talented and arrogant a person is, the more he hopes to have an evenly matched opponent, so don't worry too much." After hearing this, Tusen Kanami is no longer worried, and looking at Aizen Sosuke is even more reverent, as if looking at a god. When Ichimaru Jin heard Aizen Sosuke's words, a glint flashed in his eyes, but he didn't know what he thought of, and the glitter disappeared quickly, and Aizen Sosuke's mouth lightened when he saw Ichimaru Jin. There was a slight ups and downs, and a hint of wisdom flashed in his eyes. Advertisement on the other side, after Ichigo brought Yoruichi to the forest of Manos Grande, seeing the groups of Manos Grande here, he directly lifted Tensei-Zanjetsu and waved, and the sword pressure extending from the tip of the sword directly eliminated a group of enemies, and an extended Tionking was formed on the ground. And Yoruichi was very unhappy after seeing this scene, said to Ichigo, "I want to play too," and got off Ichigo's body, and then put on the Night Fist on his hand, and attacked a group of virtual players from a long distance. One punch, and then a road formed from where Yoruichi punched, extending for dozens of kilometers, and Yoruichi didn't use all his strength. Then Yoruichi said to Ichigo, "Let's compare and see who killed more." After that, Shunpo started to kill Manos Grande. And in the forest of Manos Grande, a Shinigami, Asido, came to watch because he heard noises in the forest, but who knew that Asido was beaten to death by a fist of Yoruichi before he knew what was going on, and Yoruichi didn't care about him after killing him, because Asido was dressed the same as Shu. So Yoruichi punched Asido and disappeared, and Ichigo took a look at Asido and ignored him. Because Ichigo doesn't care at all, whether you are Shinigami or Shu, as long as you appear in front of the current Ichigo and Yoruichi, they will kill you without the slightest hesitation. Why is this happening? It's because they're on vacation now, so of course hope they can relax well, but only if no one else disturbs them. Of course, Ichigo and Yoruichi in the forest of Manos Grande don't know yet. Espada is here to invite them as guests, but even if it's true, it doesn't matter, because Ichigo and Yoruichi's current strength can be said to be the strongest other than the Spirit King. Strong people, so they are not afraid at all, and will be very interested in this matter, because Aizen Sosuke is their first toy. Seeing this scene, Ichigo smiled, then raised Tensei-Zanjetsu and started the slaughter. And after Ichigo and Yoruichi killed several waves of Manos Grande, Yoruichi jumped to a big tree and sat down, and watched Ichigo kill the enemy. And the movement of Ichigo and Yoruichi in the forest of Manos Grande of course quickly reached Espada's ears. They knew what happened in the forest of Manos Grande and knew it must be the two of them, so they were ready to go immediately. Where have Ichigo and Yoruichi been invited to the Suya Palace? And because of Ichigo and Yoruichi's large-scale attack, the forest of Manos Grande has changed, and the devastated forest is completely different from the original forest of Manos Grande. Under the current strength of Ichigo and Yoruichi, there is no Manos Grande that can resist their attack, and even the Ajuka's level Nuo can't escape at all, and it is solved by the attack of Ichigo and Yoruichi. Chapter 192. The arrival of Espada and Yoruichi saw Ichigo killing the enemy, like a fangirl, shouting loudly, "Wow, so handsome," and Ichigo smiled after hearing it, and then heard Manos Grande's roar. He was very dissatisfied, said, "I really don't understand style." Then Ichigo got a little annoyed, so he raised Tensa Zangetsu and gathered an amazing Ryotsu in his hand, and then Ichigo slashed, forming a series of attacks from Tensa Zangetsu, and all Manos Grande in front of Ichigo were hit by this attack. It was covered, and it was done in an instant, and even the terrain of the forest of Manos Grande was leveled by this attack. And this extension opened a passage to the forest of Manos Grande. When Yoruichi saw this scene, he jumped down and said very dissatisfiedly, "It's all your fault, don't say anything about it, people's clothes are all dust." Hearing this, Ichigo was embarrassed because he didn't know how to say Yoruichi. Such a brain circuit is absolutely amazing. Then Shunpo came to Yoruichi and used Ryotsu to flick all the dust off Yoruichi's body and said, "Really, I can isolate myself with Ryotsu, why do you have to come?" Hearing this, Yoruichi got angry, glared at Ichigo and said, "Why? You still don't want to do it, do you?" Hearing this, Ichigo knew that he had said something wrong, so he directly admitted his mistake and said, "It's all my fault, I should glad to be able to help Yoruichi-sama." Hearing this, Yoruichi laughed and nodded, and Ichigo let out a sigh of relief when he saw Yoruichi getting cloudy and clear, and then smiled after feeling a few Ryotsu. Of course Yoruichi sensed it too, so he asked Ichigo, "Would you like to kill them together?" If Espada knew that Yoruichi wanted to kill them, they would definitely be scared, but Ichigo said helplessly after hearing it, "Okay, don't always kill or kill." Yoruichi pouted, and Ichigo continued, "Let's not kill them now, let's make them stronger. Now they're just bigger ants to us, so it's hard to control the power." Hearing this, Yoruichi also nodded in agreement and said, "Yes, you are right, they are really too weak now, I am really afraid that they will be pinched to death by accident, so I let them get stronger, or I'll be bored." Hearing this, Ichigo smiled, then thought about why Espada was here. On the other side, Espada, who was rushing towards here, was thinking from time to time how to face Ichigo so that he could hold his own life without hindrance, and by the way, Ichigo could be invited to the Palace of Virtual Night, so they were thinking about things. I came to the edge of the forest of Manos Grande, and everyone was shocked when they saw the appearance of the forest of Manos Grande. The forest of Manos Grande was perforated, forming a fan-shaped tunnel, and seeing that the terrain was flattened, Espada mentally described Ichigo as a demon. If Ichigo heard Espada's description of him, he would definitely laugh, because Void is like a demon to humans, and they actually use such a word to describe Ichigo, which will make Ichigo laugh. Seeing this scene, even the most rampant Grimmjow Jaegerjekes swallowed and said, "Do you really want to invite such a monster? Also very difficult." Advertisement. But Ulquiorra Cypher, who was very loyal to Aizen Sosuke, said directly, "No matter whether you live or die, you must complete the task entrusted by Aizen-sama." After speaking, he walked towards the starting point of the extension of this attack. Seeing Ulquiorra Cypher go, Coyote Stark, Tyr Harabel and other Espada members also followed, because they revered Aizen very much. The remaining few Espadas, namely Baragan Luisenbairn, Zale Aporo Grants, and these guys bowed their heads and thought about the pros and cons of this matter, and after thinking about the strength of Aizen Sosuke, they had to bite the bullet and follow the people in front. Not long after they left, a man in white clothes with silver hair looked at the road formed by the attack, and was amazed, and there was a flash of determination in his eyes, and he walked in the direction he came to. And heard Tyr Harabel in the Espada said to Ichigo very respectfully, "I want to invite you, where to be a guest, no other ideas." Hearing Tyr Harabel's words, the rest of the Espada also said to her. He agreed with Ichigo and said that it was just an invitation to be a guest. When Ichigo heard Yoruichi's words, he turned his head to her and said, "Nothing, I'm just talking to myself." Yoruichi nodded when he heard this, and then looked in the direction of Espada and the others. Espada looked at Yoruichi nervously, because the decision was in Yoruichi's hands. As long as Yoruichi said he wanted to go to Ichigo, he would leave. Drop it, BU. Then Ichigo said, "Really, what did Aizen invite me to do?" Ichigo lazily hugged Yoruichi and asked them. Soon Espada and the others came to Ichigo's place and saw Ichigo holding Yoruichi on the tree and watching them playfully, which made them a little creepy, and all of them thought in their hearts, "He actually knew we were coming. Ask for flowers." And when Ichigo heard this, he said to Yoruichi, "Yoruichi, do you think you want to go?" Ichigo asked Yoruichi very fondly. In the distance, Ichigo flashed a gleam in the eyes of the silver-haired man and said to himself, "Is this your choice?" Yoruichi asked, "What?" after hearing Ichigo's muttering. Then, under the pressure of being stared at by Ichigo, Ulquiorra Cypher stood up and bowed to Ichigo and said, "Your Excellency Kurosaki, Aizen-sama invites you to go to Suya Palace." Hearing this, Ichigo was surprised for a while, but the expression on his face, the last expression, did not leak out, which made Espada feel that Ichigo was unfathomable. Chapter 193. Promise and Yoruichi pretended to be thoughtful in Ichigo's arms. In fact, she already knew about Ichigo's decision. This appearance was just pretending to scare the Espadas, so she pretended. In the blink of an eye, 5 minutes passed, and during these 5 minutes, Espada and the others were very difficult, because they were always afraid of Aizen, Sosuke and Ichigo, so they stood there stiffly like wooden men, and they were still sweaty. It kept running down from them, getting wet wherever they were standing. Then Yoruichi finally spoke up, which made Espada let out a sigh of relief. Yoruichi said, Ichigo, otherwise we won't go, it's going to be very troublesome to go anywhere, and these guys are so annoying or else. 537, 2. He made a gesture of wiping his neck, which made Espada kneel down in fear. When Ichigo saw this scene, he patted Yoruichi's head and then said, okay, stop playing. After being patted by Ichigo, Yoruichi looked at Ichigo very aggrieved, and Ichigo saw this expression. He said to Yoruichi very helplessly, okay, please, it's your fault, it's nothing to slap you. After saying that, I scratched at Yoruichi's nose, and Yoruichi's finger at Ichigo was smashed. About to bite, and Ichigo pulled his hand back immediately. Yoruichi, who didn't bite, said to Ichigo very unwillingly, don't give in to me. When Ichigo heard it, his expression darkened and he thought, what is accommodating? Do you still need to be accommodating? Of course, these words were not spoken, and Ichigo pretended not to hear anything and said to Espada, all right, you first get up, now you are all kneeling to make me very helpless. Hearing Espada's strange expression, they thought to themselves, we are afraid, right? Of course they dared not say it, and then they got together, and Ulquiorra Cipher asked Ichigo, is your excellency Kurosaki going? Hearing Ulquiorra Cipher's words, everyone in Espada looked at Ichigo. Although Yoruichi agreed just now, Ichigo was the one who made the final decision, so they looked at Ichigo nervously, hoping to get the answer they wanted. And Ichigo smiled and said, since Yoruichi wants to go, let's go. Espada was happy to hear this, because it means Ichigo agreed. And Ulquiorra Cipher made a gesture of invitation to Ichigo, and then said, please come with us, your excellency Kurosaki, and then turned to the sound of the empty night palace, and other Espada also followed behind Ulquiorra Cipher gone. When Yoruichi saw it, he said, where are you going? Ichigo kissed Yoruichi's forehead and said, it's nothing, I just want to see how Aizen's strength is now. Where did he invite me this time? Yoruichi asked, is that so? Then Ichigo said, the most important thing is to see if Aizen is qualified to be our opponent. Yoruichi also nodded after hearing this. Advertisement. And then Ichigo hugged Yoruichi and headed towards Espada and the others. And the Tier Haribel in the Espada who walked in front asked Ulquiorra Cipher, I don't think he is that difficult to get along with. And Yami Largo said to Tier Haribel, never underestimate him because of this, he is a devil. Hearing Yoruichi's question, Ichigo smiled and said, don't you find it interesting? Hearing this, Yoruichi looked at Ichigo in confusion, and Ichigo continued. Of course I want to see Aizen. What happens when you see me coming with Espada and them? And Grimjow Jaegerjaquez also nodded and said, indeed, when I fought him for the first time, the feeling that it was like the sky was falling down on you and you couldn't move was really uncomfortable, the most important thing. The thing is that at that time I didn't know how I was beaten at all, and I lost consciousness. When Grimjow Jaegerjaquez was talking, everyone looked at him, and after listening to him, everyone was surprised. Hearing this, Yoruichi thought for a while, then smiled and said, yeah, when the time comes, let's see what will happen to Aizen. After speaking, he stopped talking, and Ichigo also speeded up a little, but also don't exceed Espada's limit, otherwise they don't have the right to look at Ichigo's back. Ulquiorra Cipher also said, indeed, even I didn't find it at that time. Ulquiorra Cipher's words attracted everyone's attention again, and he continued, when I first met him, I thought it was ordinary people, I only realized that I was wrong when I started. At that time, I felt that even Lord Aizen would not be his opponent because of his power. Hearing this, people were amazed for a while, but their footsteps did not stop at all, down. Then Ichigo still carried Yoruichi and followed them behind Espada. Although Ichigo could easily overtake them and came to the Void Knight Palace in an instant, Ichigo thought it was more interesting to come to the Void Knight Palace with Espada and the others 1.4 points. Ulquiorra Cipher continued, but now I don't know, because Aizen-sama's strength has improved again, and Aizen-sama hasn't touched a single time after improving his strength, so I can't make any assertions now. After Ulquiorra Cipher there was silence, and no one else spoke. And Yoruichi whispered to Ichigo, why don't you go to Suya Palace first before them? And Ichigo suddenly appeared behind Espada and said, why are you thinking about it, why don't you go? Everyone was shocked when they heard this, because they didn't realize when Ichigo came behind them, but they thought about Ichigo after the strength is relieved. After hearing Ichigo's words, everyone started to concentrate on their journey, and seeing this, Ichigo smiled a little, and Yoruichi saw Ichigo's smile and the corners of his mouth curled up. Chapter 194. Conversation. Soon Ichigo and the others came to the Suya Palace, which was a huge and complicated labyrinth-like building. Espada has its own palace, and Arankar outside Espada also has its own residence according to different levels. The most important thing is that there are many detection and security systems inside and outside the palace, and every move of the intruder will be detected. And Ichigo said to Espada after seeing it, this place is really good. Aizen did a good job of this place. Ulquiorra Cipher said, indeed, since the arrival of Lord Aizen, the place has been remodeled a lot, so there is now the virtual night palace. Hearing this, Baragan Louisenbairn snorted coldly, although he didn't want to admit it, but from Aizen after Sosuke took charge of Suya Palace, he saw all the transformation and improvement of Suya Palace in his eyes. In this aspect, he was indeed inferior to Aizen Sosuke. But that doesn't mean he will surrender under Aizen Sosuke. At this time, Aizen Sosuke came out and said 26. It's not bad for me to change this place to this, and this time should be our first solemn meeting, Kurosaki Ichigo. Aizen Sosuke walked out, and followed Ichimaru Jin and Tusen Kanami. When Ichigo saw Aizen Sosuke, he said, "Indeed, this is indeed the first time we met. The last time I saw you, I didn't have the qualifications to let me face it, and this time I came to see you, and it felt good." Ichigo talking to Aizen Sosuke, he used the system to check his attributes. Name: Aizen Sosuke, half-bound Hōgyoku, S*X, male. Age: 162. Spouse: none. Potential: Spirit King advertisement. Ryatsu: Super Captain, 20 level 1, Zanpakuto, Kyoka Suigetsu, Bankai. Kido: LVMAX level 20 Shunpo, LVMAX level 20 White Hits, LVMAX level 20. Chopping: LVMAX 20 Combat Experience, LVMAX 20. Ichigo was also very surprised to see this scene, because now Aizen Sosuke's strength has improved, and even Hōgyoku has been bound in half by him, which surprised Ichigo, and Yoruichi was also amazed when he saw it, and Ichigo immediately recovered, because he thinks that Aizen Sosuke is like this because he came to this world, which is the butterfly effect in popular terms. Of course, Yoruichi doesn't know the word, and even if she knew, she probably wouldn't use it to describe the current scene. And Aizen Sosuke went on to say, if that's the case, then please take a tour. 35. He made away, and then gave a gesture of, please. Ichigo took Yoruichi's hand and left without being surprised at all, while Aizen Sosuke smiled and said to Espada, "Okay, now it's none of your business, so go back." After saying that, he waved to them. Advertisement, and they nodded when they heard it, and then they all went back, and then Aizen Sosuke also walked towards Ichigo. Ichigo looked at the decorations in Suya Palace and was very curious, and Yoruichi followed Ichigo to watch, but soon they stopped watching because it was too boring, and there were not many things to see at all. The three of them, Aizen Sosuke and Ichimaru Jin, came over, and when they saw Ichigo and Yoruichi helpless, they asked, "What's wrong?" 35. And Ichigo said to her, "Because of boredom, don't you have something to watch in this place?" Hearing this, Aizen Sosuke knew why Ichigo and Yoruichi sighed, because there was nothing they liked in Suya Palace, so they get bored. Aizen Sosuke was very embarrassed to hear this, and didn't know how to answer, but Ichigo said to Aizen Sosuke after seeing it, "Okay, then let's talk about the topic directly." Aizen Sosuke recovered after hearing this. "Come over." Looking at Ichigo, Ichigo continued, "You invited me over, not just to show me this place?" Hearing this, Aizen Sosuke said with a smile, "Sure enough, as long as you are what I want," and he looked at Ichigo very frantically, which made Ichigo a little scared, thinking that Aizen Sosuke would not be a gay. And Aizen Sosuke got a little angry when he saw Ichigo's eyes, but he immediately stopped himself and said to Ichigo, "I mean, as long as you are worthy of being my opponent." Hearing this, Ichigo breathed a sigh of relief, and Yoruichi, who was beside him, laughed. Ichigo ignored Yoruichi, but looked at Aizen Sosuke and said, "Really? Then let's see if you can grow up to be with me. The same height, if not, what you just said was just a joke." When I heard what else Aizen Sosuke had to say, I was speechless, because Ichigo broke out his Ryatsu, and the three of Aizen Sosuke and Ichimaru Jin were enveloped. Ichimaru Jin and Tusen Kanami directly he knelt down on one knee, and although Aizen Sosuke was not bad, he still bent down and was about to kneel, but this Ryatsu came and went quickly. But Aizen Sosuke and the others were all wet, and Ichigo glanced at them and said, "Then do your best to climb up, but don't fall. Aizen," and walked away with Yoruichi in his arms. And where Aizen Sosuke looked at the place where Ichigo was in horror, but immediately laughed again and said, "It's interesting, Kurosaki Ichigo, let's see who is the master of the throne of the sky." Chapter 195. The power of Yoruichi. And after Ichigo and Yoruichi walked out of the Night Palace, they walked towards the forest of Manos Grande, because it was boring now, but still wanted to stay here for a few days. So Ichigo and Yoruichi came to the forest of Manos Grande and continued to play here, and after coming here, Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "Then what are we doing here now? Are we going to play with those Manos Grande?" Hearing this, Yoruichi pondered, because she didn't know what to do anymore, so she asked Ichigo coquettishly, "I don't know, so Ichigo say something interesting." 35. Hearing this, Ichigo was helpless. At first, in order to keep Yoruichi from being bored, he told Yoruichi some plots from the anime, and Yoruichi was actually very interested in this, so he kept pestering Ichigo hoping that he could give it to Yoruichi. She spoke, and Ichigo had to keep telling her, talking and talking. Ichigo is about to finish the novel that he knows, so sometimes he really doesn't want to tell Yoruichi, because he really doesn't know what to tell her again. But now I was very helpless, so Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "It was a village made up of many families called Konoha. One day, a man in black with a mask invaded Konoha." Then Ichigo tells Yoruichi the Hokage ninja story, which ends when Ichigo talks about Shippuden. Yoruichi was very dissatisfied and said, "Really, why stop?" Hearing Yoruichi's complaint, Ichigo hugged Yoruichi and said, Of course the wonderful thing will be saved for the end, so let's get here first. Ichigo hugged Yoruichi and scratched her nose. Although Yoruichi was dissatisfied after hearing this, he still held back and said, "Okay, let's talk about something else after a long time." Hearing this, Ichigo laughed helplessly, and then kissed Yoruichi. And Yoruichi, who was kissed by Ichigo, also began to respond to Ichigo. When he was about to start his passion, a roar sounded and they quarreled. Ichigo was very angry, and Yoruichi was even more outrageous. All of the Ryotsu were released directly, and the phantom was directly crushed by this Ryotsu. In addition, this Ryotsu also suppressed the emptiness in the forest of Manos Grande, and it was consumed little by little, and it would soon disappear. Even Ajuka's was suppressed by this Ryotsu and could not get up at all. Come. Even a few people far away in Suya Palace felt this Ryotsu and were amazed. Because they knew that this was not Ichigo's Ryotsu, but Yoruichi's Ryotsu, so they were surprised. They didn't expect Yoruichi to have such a powerful strength, and Aizen Sosuke was even more surprised and said, "How is this possible?" Because in Aizen and Sosuke's eyes, Yoruichi couldn't possibly become so powerful, so he suddenly found out that there was such a powerful opponent, which caught Aizen Sosuke off guard. And Ichimaru Jin's eyes flashed with murderous intent, because he wanted to kill Aizen Sosuke when he was surprised, but he held back because he was not sure. Tusen Kanami next to him was very worried and said to Aizen Sosuke, "Will this affect Aizen-sama's plan, Aizen-sama?" Then he continued, "Would you like me to solve her?" Aizen Sosuke's blind reverence made him a little ignorant of his own weight. Aizen Sosuke was very disdainful when he heard it, but neither of them saw it, and then said to Tusen Kanami, "It's okay, yes, even if I come out for a month, it won't hinder my plan." Advertisement hearing this, Tusen Kanami respectfully said to Aizen Sosuke, as expected of Aizen-sama. Ichimaru Jin was very disdainful when he heard this, but it didn't leak out, and Aizen Sosuke smiled when he heard it. Fortunately, Ichigo hurriedly organized Yoruichi to say, "Okay, alright, hurry up and restrain Ryotsu, or you will wipe out the emptiness in the forest of Manos Grande." Hearing this, Yoruichi said indifferently, "It's alright, it's all empty anyway, just let me destroy it." And Ichigo slapped Yoruichi on the forehead and said, "If you wipe them all out now, then we'll be bored in the future." Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi thought about it and thought it made sense, so he put away his Ryotsu. Although she put away her Ryotsu, many Manos Grande were crushed by this Ryotsu. Then Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "Okay, let's find a better place to rest now." He picked up Yoruichi and walked in one direction. And her current opponent, just a Muguruma Kensai, is not her opponent at all, although Muguruma Kensai and their strengths have been improved by Ichigo, but Arisawa Tatsuki has also improved Ichigo a lot of strength, so the promotion between them is all it's the same. On the other hand, Arisawa Tatsuki in reality has been walking towards the masked army these days, because it takes a lot of effort to use his hollow skillfully. So she insisted on going there to practice every day, so that she could hollow for a minute. And Hirako Shinji smiled and said, "This time the opponent is me, and I won't let the water go this time," he said, a fierce Ryotsu raging. After hearing this, Arisawa Tatsuki said excitedly, "Then let the horse come over." At this time Kuna Mashiro said to Arisawa Tatsuki, "Look at you, Longwei, this place has become very good." Kuna Mashiro was entangled by Arisawa Tatsuki and had to call her name. Because Arisawa Tatsuki has been pestering Kuna Mashiro for this trivial matter, and Kuna Mashiro is also afraid, so he started calling Li Haojiao, Arisawa Tatsuki's name. And Arisawa Tatsuki, not to be outdone, released his Ryotsu and said, "Of course this is what I want to see." So the people of the masked army were very happy to see this scene, and after Arisawa Tatsuki watched it, Hirako Shinji said to her, "Okay, it's time to start today's training, and if today's training is good, we will reward you." Everyone who talked about the masked army also nodded. Today, after Arisawa Tatsuki came to the base of the masked army, he saw the brand new base and said very curiously, "Wow! This place has become so beautiful." Hearing this, the people of the masked army are very glad that the place is even better now because they took the money from Ichigo's walk away to refurbish the place. Arisawa Tatsuki said, "Indeed, the change here is really big." As he said that, he walked to the other rooms, and Kuna Mashiro has been following Arisawa Tatsuki, explaining something to her. Chapter 196. Return. Then Arisawa Tatsuki pulled out the tenrai and held the sword with both hands, while Hirako Shinji also pulled out his Zanpakuto, held the sword with one hand, smiled at Arisawa Tatsuki and said, "Let's get started." Without waiting for Arisawa Tatsuki to speak, he rushed towards Arisawa Tatsuki. When Arisawa Tatsuki saw this scene, he was very angry and said, "It's abhorrent to have a sneak attack." He blocked Hirako Shinji's move, and then quickly started to fight back. Hirako Shinji said without any shame about Arisawa Tatsuki's words, "Don't relax no matter where you are, because you don't know when he will suddenly attack you," and then attacked Arisawa Tatsuki again. He gave Arisawa Tatsuki a slash directly, and Arisawa Tatsuki held the blow, then said to Hirako Shinji, "Thank you so much, I won't forget it," and kicked Hirako Shinji between his legs, and Hirako Shinji saw this scene and directly Shunpo came to the front 10 meters from Arisawa Tatsuki. Hirako Shinji then said to Arisawa Tatsuki of 537, "Really, how can you use this trick?" Arisawa Tatsuki said very directly. This is called being unprepared. After speaking, a half-moon sword chi attacked Hiriko Shinji, and Hiriko Shinji also used the sword chi to offset this move. And Arisawa Tatsuki certainly wouldn't let this chance go, so Shunpo came to the back of Hiriko Shinji, slashed, but didn't make it, and was also held up by Hiriko Shinji's Zanpakuto. When Hiriko Shinji attacked Arisawa Tatsuki, he knew that she would sneak attack later, so he secretly alerted when the dust was caused by cancelling the sword energy of Arisawa Tatsuki. As Hiriko Shinji thought, Arisawa Tatsuki did sneak attack. He was, so Hiriko Shinji was on guard first, so he blocked her attack. Then the two of them started fighting Ryotsu, and the two huge Ryotsu blew the dust away, and the ground began to crack. On their swords, their respective Ryotsu emerged, and where the Ryotsu intersected, there were flickering terrifying flashes, which surprised the rest of the masked corps. Although surprised, there is nothing surprising, because this is just an ordinary confrontation between Ryotsu. As long as one Ryotsu is stronger than the other, he can crush him. And the Ryotsu on both sides are equally powerful, it depends on the quality and recovery speed of the Ryotsu. And the two of them didn't know the winner for a minute, so they both jumped backwards, and then stood at a place more than 10 meters away from each other, and Hiriko Shinji looked at it and said, "Okay, let's fight seriously. It's time to liberate Zanpakuto." As he spoke, he waved the Zanpakuto in his hand at her. Hearing this, Arisawa Tatsuki said to him, "Okay, I'm going to be serious too," and his eyes were full of serious expressions. When Hiriko Shinji saw this scene, he smiled and said, "Fall down," stroking. As he spoke, the world in front of Arisawa Tatsuki changed. The sky was actually below, and the ground was above. This, of course, did not frighten Arisawa Tatsuki, but excited him. Advertisement. Then Arisawa Tatsuki said, "Come on, Tinlay." A thunder light came down and draped over Arisawa Tatsuki's Tinlay, and the shape of the Houdenlay changed a little, and the rear sword flashed with thunderflowers. Arisawa Tatsuki looked at Hiriko Shinji and said, "I'm going." "Come on." After saying that, he rushed towards her, and Arisawa Tatsuki also rushed towards Hiriko Shinji, CGBE. And the two of them started a war, and the opposite place to Zoran here is where Ichigo and Yoruichi stayed. They are now in Hueco Mundo, sweetly strolling, and as long as Shu comes to bother them, they will directly one-hit solved. And Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "How about it, is it enough to shop now?" Then he tapped Yoruichi's forehead. And Yoruichi said to Ichigo, "It's almost the same now, and it's too boring here, so let's go back." He grabbed Ichigo's arm hard. And when Ichigo heard it, he thought it was right. Hueco Mundo is so desolate, and there is nothing to see now, so Ichigo also felt that he was going to return to the world. So I said to Yoruichi, "Okay, let's go now." Then Ichigo took out Tensa Zangetsu and slashed at the void, and then a crack appeared in the void, and Ichigo looked at Yoruichi and said, "Okay, let me go." 35. As he spoke, he reached out to Yoruichi, and Yoruichi also reached out and grabbed Ichigo's hand tightly, and then Ichigo picked up Yu and walked directly into the crack. And after the two of them went in, the crack disappeared directly, and not too far from here, there was a child with green hair, who was very surprised to see this scene, but after seeing this after the crack disappeared, it went straight away. And of course Ichigo and Yoruichi found her, but they went back without saying anything, and after entering, Yoruichi said to Ichigo, "Who was that person just now?" When Ichigo heard it, he said, "Actually, she is a very special phantom, but it is said to be an alternative in a phantom." Yoruichi was curious when he heard this, and Ichigo hugged Yoruichi and said to her as he walked. And after Yoruichi listened to Ichigo's words, Yoruichi said to Ichigo, "I didn't expect there would be such a strange ghost, it's so kind." When Ichigo heard this, he kissed Yoruichi's forehead and said, "Although he is kind, excessive kindness can hurt himself." Yoruichi also nodded. Indeed, excessive kindness can make others worse, so Yoruichi shook his head and got rid of the strange thoughts in his mind, and Ichigo smiled when he saw Yoruichi's cute appearance. When Yoruichi heard Ichigo laughing at himself, he performed his meat pinch magic on Ichigo, and Ichigo felt helpless after feeling it. Chapter 197. Decision. During the fight with Yoruichi, Ichigo and the others returned to the world, and they came out to see the battle between Arisawa Tatsuki and Hiriko Shinji. Ichigo looked at them and said, "Really, I just saw their fight when I came back." Then Ichigo jumped out of the black chamber with Yoruichi in his arms, and of course everyone in the masked army saw Ichigo. Then they all rushed towards Ichigo, and the two who were fighting also stopped and came towards here. And when Ichigo saw them all coming, he put Yoruichi down and said, "How have you been recently?" Hearing everyone here started talking, "It's been pretty good recently," said Aikawa Luo-take. "Indeed, every day went well," Kuna Mashiro said. "What do you say? Every day is delicious, and of course I have a good time, and I will spend all my money," said Yadumaru Lisa. "Lisa, you can't say that, money just has to be spent," Love Aikawa said. "But how do you spend money like this? It will be spent in a few days," said Yadumaru Lisa. Okay, don't say that," Atoribashi Rojiro said. "And, you too, what's the use of buying that piano, you can't play it," Yadumaru Lisa said. Advertisement. Atoribashi Rojiro didn't know what to say. "Lisa, that's what you say, but you also buy a lot of magazines," Hiriko Shinji said. I have to look at it all. It's like you buy it and keep it there without moving, isn't it a waste? 39 Yadomaru Lisa said. Then he went on to say, and Hiyori as well, what's the use of buying so many watermelons, you can't finish them all, said Yadomaru Lisa. I was there to store food for everyone, Sarugaki Hiyori retorted. Then they started arguing, and Ichigo had a headache seeing this scene, and Yoruichi sighed helplessly after seeing it. Okay, let's stop arguing, let's listen to what Ichigo has to say. After Hashijin finished speaking, everyone looked at Ichigo in unison. And Ichigo was very helpless to see this scene, and then said, or I won't give you the money. Before they could finish speaking, several members of the masked army directly hugged Ichigo's thigh, and then cried out, no, and the remaining women looked at Ichigo pitifully. Seeing this, Ichigo said, then I'll still give it to you, but the number will be reduced to half of the original amount. When they heard this, they would resist, but they shut up immediately, and Ichigo continued, of course, you resist too. Yes, but I won't even give this half. After listening to this, all of them looked at Ichigo with resentment, but Ichigo shook his head helplessly and said, this is what you asked me to think of, although some it's embarrassing for you, but this way you can control your spending hands. After saying that, he was ready to go back, and Ichigo just walked to Yoruichi's side. Hiriko Shinji said to Ichigo. Wait a minute, Ichigo. Hearing this, Ichigo turned to look at Hiriko Shinji suspiciously, and he continued. How about the harvest of going to Hueco Mundo? Advertisement. After hearing this, Ichigo smiled and said, it was so boring, nothing interesting happened. And Yoruichi went on to say, that's it, those Arankars were afraid in front of us like a kid who did something wrong. It's not fun at all. Everyone heard the black line here, and then thought in their hearts, it's not because the two of you are so pervert, otherwise how could they be like this? If they don't do this, their end will be miserable. Hearing this, Ichigo smiled and said, I meant it. Hearing this, everyone in the masked army was excited, and then Ichigo continued. Also, even if you have all of his strength, you have no chance of winning. Here everyone was wet for a while. Ask for flowers. Seeing this scene, Ichigo and Yoruichi were very puzzled, and after Arisawa Tatsuki finished laughing, after speaking to Ichigo and the others, they also smiled. This made the masked legion blush even more, like a monkey's butt. And Hiriko Shinji and the others, after listening to Yoruichi's complaint, Hiriko Shinji said, then Ichigo, did you meet him? Of course, they can only think about these things in their hearts. If they say it, they can't guarantee that Ichigo and Yoruichi will not attack them. And Ichigo said, if you don't worry, let me improve your strength every week. After hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up, and even Arisawa Tatsuki was very excited. Although Sarugaki Hiyori wanted to refute, but didn't say anything, because she also understood that Ichigo was telling the truth, so she fell silent. So everyone in the masked army was silent, and Arisawa Tatsuki didn't speak when he saw this scene. Ichigo shook his head when he saw this scene, and then said, I'll wake up. After talking about them, everyone wakes up from their contemplation, and then looked at Ichigo. Then after they were all blushing, Ichigo said to them, okay, don't take him to heart, he will leave him to the two of us to play with him. Hearing this, everyone also reacted that Ichigo and Yoruichi have been playing him like a toy. They are relieved to think of this. And Ichigo said, really, don't be afraid of your opponent because of this, because then you have lost a hand before the battle, so how can you fight? Everyone bowed their heads and didn't know what to do when they heard this. Because this was indeed what they had taught Arisawa Tatsuki the other day, and it made them blush so much that they forgot it themselves. Arisawa Tatsuki kept snickering by the side. Chapter 198, Snacks. Everyone was excited when they heard that they could improve their strength, but Hiriko Shinji calmed down his excitement, and then said, is it possible to improve now? Everyone looked at Ichigo after hearing this. Arisawa Tatsuki said worriedly, will it hurt you? Hearing this, Yoruichi looked at Arisawa Tatsuki suspiciously. Of course, Ichigo found out, but no one else found out. Ichigo said, it won't cause any harm to me, and took Yoruichi's hand, then continued, so do you want to start now? Or tomorrow? Hearing that, everyone looked at Hiriko Shinji, but Arisawa Tatsuki didn't look at Hiriko Shinji, but kept looking at Ichigo. Yoruichi was a little nervous seeing this scene, but recovered immediately. And, 540, Hiriko Shinji thought for a while and said, Ichigo, if you are tired now, then tomorrow. And the rest of the masked army members who heard this also looked at Ichigo. And Ichigo smiled and said, it's hard for a person like me to feel tired. After looking at Yoruichi, he said, of course, let's talk about some special things. Hearing this, Yoruichi understood what Ichigo was talking about, and then jumped into Ichigo's arms and slapped his chest lightly, which made Ichigo very helpless. Arisawa Tatsuki was very puzzled when he heard it, but after the masked army heard it, he gave Ichigo an expression that you understand, and Ichigo smiled speechlessly after seeing it. And Ichigo hugged Yoruichi and said, then I can improve your strength now, you can come one by one. After that, they lined up in front of Ichigo. Seeing them line up in front of Ichigo so skillfully and quickly made Ichigo's face black line, but he still held back and started to improve their strength. Soon, everyone's strength increased by one level, and when Ichigo saw this scene, he said to them, okay, the improvement is finished, so we too are going back now, and walked outside. Advertisement. And after everyone heard this, Hiriko Shinji said, so fast? After hearing this, Ichigo said, "We have to go back and say something to my parents, don't we?" Hearing that everyone stopped talking, and Hiriko Shinji said, "Okay. See you tomorrow," and waved at Ichigo, and Ichigo nodded when he saw it. Arisawa Tatsuki also wanted to walk with Ichigo, but after seeing Yoruichi, he chose to stay here for a while and walked. Of course, no one knows what Arisawa Tatsuki is thinking, but Yoruichi vaguely guessed what Arisawa Tatsuki looked like. After that, Ichigo and Yoruichi walked out of the Kamen Core base and walked towards the house. On the way, Ichigo felt several strands of Ryotsu, and they were all familiar, and the strength of these Ryotsu was much stronger than before Ichigo and the two went to Hueco Mundo, which made Ichigo more and more sure that it was caused by the butterfly effect. Of course, Ichigo can't be sure right now, but it's close to 10. Then Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "I didn't expect the T degree, but the strength of Ishida and the others has increased a lot these days." Hearing this, Yoruichi also felt it and said, "Indeed, I didn't expect to improve so fast." Then he looked at Ichigo and said, "Even if they improve fast, how fast can you be?" Hearing this, Ichigo was happy, then pinched Yoruichi's nose and said, "Then you are not." Yoruichi knocked off Ichigo's hand and said, "Stop pinching it, it won't look good." Then he stroked his nose, as if to make sure it was not pinched. When Ichigo saw it, he kissed Yoruichi's face and said, "Would you like to buy something?" Advertisement. Hearing this, Yoruichi was stunned for a moment, then immediately reacted and said, let's go shopping." Then he got down from Ichigo's arms, and then took Ichigo's hand and rushed towards the commercial street. When I came to the commercial street, because it was dusk, the shops turned on the lights, and the lights on the roadside and the trees were all lit up, which looked unique. When Yoruichi was about to drag Ichigo into a clothing store, Ichigo said, "Okay, don't worry so much. Go to the snack street next to you to eat a little, and then come to buy clothes." 35. Immediately, the two of them came to the snack street. Seeing so many good 1.4 eats on this street, Yoruichi also started to get thirsty, and then every time he came to a stall, he bought something to eat, and he ate while walking, not forgetting to look at the next stall. There is something delicious, like writing down everything you want to eat. And Ichigo said as he walked, "When did I never finish what I promised you?" Hearing this, Yoruichi thought, "That's true," so he took Ichigo's arm and acted like a spoiled brat to Ichigo. "Don't be like this," and holding his hand, he started to make a fuss, and Ichigo was very helpless, and people on the street laughed when they saw Yoruichi's actions, and the boys were all jealous and envious. "Look at me," because of Yoruichi's beauty, and those male companions who were fascinated by Yoruichi are pinched by female companions. The girls looked at Yoruichi with envy because they saw that Ichigo was so young and handsome, and he was rich. Soon, after Yoruichi had eaten several snacks, Ichigo pulled Yoruichi and sat down on the park bench, wanting to take a break. And seeing that it was already dark, all the streetlights around were on, and the moon was shining on Ichigo and Yoruichi, and the soft light made Ichigo and Yoruichi very happy. This scene made Ichigo laugh, stroking Yoruichi's head and saying, "Okay, don't look at it like that, as long as you want to eat, you can buy all these food stalls for you." Hearing this, Yoruichi very happy. Because only people with a lot of income can come and consume in this street, ordinary people can't afford to sell. Hearing this, Yoruichi thought for a while and thought it was right, so he said, "Let go of you first, but you can't lie to me." After saying that, he hugged Ichigo's arm and walked somewhere. And Ichigo has always been very strange, because in novels, there is always such a break in the plot. As long as the male protagonist and the female protagonist go out, there will always be some people who are looking for trouble with the male protagonist, right? But Ichigo has not touched it so far. So Ichigo thought, the things in the novel really can't be taken seriously. Chapter 199. Shopping. After Ichigo and Yoruichi stayed here for a while, Yoruichi couldn't wait to take Ichigo's hand and said, "Okay, now let's go shopping." He also pulled Ichigo to make Ichigo go faster. This made Ichigo amused very much, then nodded and said, "Okay, now, don't be so anxious." Then he followed Yoruichi. When Ichigo was being pulled away by Yoruichi, he looked at the sky that was the same as before, which reminded Ichigo of his previous life. He remembered the scene when he was looking at the night sky in the wild, and his dream at that time. Then, after being pulled into the commercial street by Yoruichi, Ichigo also recovered, and then laughed at himself, and then recovered his emotions before Yoruichi didn't find out. Of course, Yoruichi didn't notice the change in Ichigo's mood, and then looked at Ichigo and said, "I want to enter this store." Then he pointed to a store with a very beautiful storefront. When Ichigo saw the name of the store, he said helplessly, "Okay." Yoruichi was very happy to hear this, and Ichigo continued, "I'll wait for you outside." Although the facade of this store is beautiful, it is a lingerie store, so Ichigo was a little embarrassed and wanted to wait outside until Yoruichi finished shopping. Yoruichi was very dissatisfied and said, "Why don't you come in with me?" He pouted at Ichigo. Seeing this scene, Ichigo said helplessly, "This is a lingerie store, it's not good for me to go in." And in order to relieve the embarrassment, he touched his nose. And Yoruichi laughed when he heard this, and Ichigo was speechless when he saw Yoruichi laughing, and after Yoruichi finished laughing, he said to Ichigo, "It's actually nothing. Many women's boyfriends will accompany her. I came here to help my girlfriend choose underwear, so there is no need for embarrassment and entanglement." Hearing this, Ichigo was relieved, so he asked Yoruichi, "Really?" Advertisement, Yoruichi said with a smile. Of course it's true, I won't let my lover be treated as a pervert by others. Hearing this, Ichigo thought this sentence was a bit weird, but he couldn't say anything, so he nodded and went in with Yoruichi. After going in, I saw some women brought their boyfriends in to choose underwear, so Ichigo was relieved. After Yoruichi went in, he looked left and right, and then took it down when he saw a purple sexy underwear, then compared it to his body, and said to Ichigo, "How is it? Does it fit? Suitable?" After seeing this sexy underwear, Ichigo imagined the scene if it was worn on Yoruichi, which made Ichigo instantly hot, and then looked at Yoruichi very hot. And Ichigo's fiery eyes already let Yoruichi know Ichigo's thoughts, so he took this underwear, and then Yoruichi took several underwear and asked Ichigo's opinion. And Ichigo imagined that those underwear would be perfect in Yoruichi. I wanted to throw her down immediately, but because it was a public place, I held back. Then when Ichigo couldn't bear it anymore, he said to Yoruichi, "Buy it all." Yoruichi was a little helpless to hear this, but when he saw Ichigo's eyes that he was going to strip Yoruichi now, Yoruichi was no longer so seduced Ichigo. Yoruichi said, "You don't have to buy so many, just this." Then, he took the underwear that he was very satisfied with just now to the front desk and let Ichigo check out. Seal 1. Yoruichi took a breath and thumped Ichigo's chest a few times before saying, "Really, I can't breathe. I just want to punish you, who made you tempt me," Ichigo said naturally. Advertisement, and Yoruichi was speechless after hearing that. 66. To the power of 99. But right away Yoruichi said to Ichigo, "If I can't tempt my lover, that would be bad, wouldn't it?" Hearing this, Ichigo also felt that Yoruichi's words were right, and he felt as if he was wrong, so he said to Yoruichi, "Then I'll make it up to you tonight." Yoruichi laughed when he heard it and said, "I don't want 540, bully me every time." Ichigo pretended to be in pain and grinned, which made Yoruichi very worried and asked Ichigo, "What's wrong? Did it hurt you?" Hearing Yoruichi's concern, Ichigo stopped pretending and laughed, and seeing this scene, Yoruichi knew that he had been deceived. So he got angry, and when Ichigo saw it, he hugged Yoruichi and started coaxing her. Then after Ichigo promised Yoruichi something, Yoruichi was no longer angry, and then started to drag Ichigo to go shopping. Soon Ichigo's body was covered with large and small bags. Fortunately, Ichigo is not an ordinary person now, otherwise he would have fallen to the ground long ago. And why Ichigo has system space but doesn't use it, that's because Yoruichi made Ichigo unable to use system space to hold Yoruichi's clothes, and only let him hold it, which caused this scene. Yoruichi, who was walking in front of Ichigo, laughed when he saw Ichigo's current appearance, but immediately smiled strangely and continued to walk to the next place. Chapter 200. On the way home soon Yoruichi ran out, and Ichigo was sad because he had clothes bags all over his body, and some of them were dragging on the ground. Luckily the bags from these stores are of good quality, otherwise they would have worn out long ago. And Ichigo was very happy to see Yoruichi stopped and said, "Is it over? Are you going to go back? But the reality is cruel." "Not yet. Now to choose some clothes for parents to wear, and then go back," Yoruichi mused. This made Ichigo even more collapsed, feeling that he was all gray. It turns out that shopping with a woman is so scary. Even the current Ichigo can't hold it anymore. So Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "Okay, let's come back tomorrow." After saying that, Ichigo regretted it. Because Yoruichi looked at Ichigo with very pitiful eyes, Ichigo was defeated, so he said, "Okay, let's continue." Hearing this, Yoruichi was happy, and then continued to walk towards the next house, which made Ichigo very doubtful whether Yoruichi was pretending or something. But Ichigo didn't suspect anything and continued to follow Yoruichi. When Yoruichi walked in front of Ichigo, he gave a very good look, as if a child's mischief had succeeded. After Yoruichi continued to visit several stores, he stopped for a while, and said to Ichigo, "Let's go back today." Ichigo was very happy to hear this, but it didn't show on his face, but Yoruichi continued. "Even so, but I still have to go out for a walk tomorrow." Hearing this, Ichigo felt bitter in his heart, so Ichigo showed a very happy look on his face and said, "Okay. Now go to our house for one night, and then go home and tell your parents after shopping tomorrow." 99. Ichigo was very happy to hear this, but it didn't show on her face, and Yoruichi also kept looking at Ichigo's expression. If Ichigo leaked a happy expression, she decided to continue shopping, but unfortunately she didn't show any expression on Ichigo's face. "I didn't see it, so I had to go back." Advertisement. Then they both rushed home. And Ichigo is also relaxed this time, because Yoruichi let him put everything in the system space, so Ichigo is also lighter. Yoruichi said to Ichigo, "Am I overdone?" Hearing Yoruichi's guilt words, Ichigo hugged Yoruichi and said, "It's nothing, it's actually normal, because couples are supposed to be like this, so don't say these things." And Yoruichi was very happy when he heard it, and Yoruichi saw those things in the book just now, so Yoruichi didn't know if it was correct or not, and Yoruichi was also a man and woman who didn't know much about the relationship between men and women in the world, so he just read some books to learn. Yoruichi continued, "Ichigo, forgive me no matter what I do wrong," and he acted like a spoiled brat to Ichigo. After hearing this, Ichigo said, "As long as you don't cuckold me and hurt our relatives in the future, then I will promise you everything." Hearing this, Yoruichi was white and Ichigo said, "How could I have done these things?" When Ichigo heard it, he said, I didn't think this would happen. Yoruichi heard, humph, and buried his face in Ichigo's arms, and Ichigo smiled when he saw it and continued to walk towards the house. And when he was about to arrive at home and passed a dessert house, Yoruichi said, "Buy some food to go home. I'm a little hungry," and looked at Ichigo pitifully, which made Ichigo very funny. But Ichigo didn't refuse Yoruichi's words either, so he stopped at the dessert house and put Yoruichi down and went in together. After entering, the clerk greeted him and said, "Welcome, what do you need?" Advertisement. Ichigo is very relieved to hear that the clerk here treats customers very well, because this store is the store opened by Ichigo. And the clerk didn't know him, because other than the manager and a few employees, the other employees didn't know Ichigo, and this happened to be one of them. Ichigo said, "Then the cake here is the best seller." After speaking, the clerk introduced several cakes that were more popular to Ichigo, and Ichigo nodded secretly after seeing it. Then Ichigo asked Yoruichi to choose a few cakes and left, but Ichigo sent a text message to the manager of the store, asking him to raise the salary of the clerk just now. Because it was late, the store manager also went home, and after receiving Ichigo's text message at home, he replied immediately, and the employee's salary was raised by one level on the salary scale. After that, the clerk was very happy to hear that his salary had increased, while other clerks were very dissatisfied with the decision, and the store manager directly said, "If you want to do it, continue to do it. If you don't do it, get out. Don't dare to say anything more, because the job in this dessert house is very high salary, but there are many people watching, so they have to shut up because they don't want to lose this job." Of course, these are later stories. And at this time, Ichigo and Yoruichi have returned home. At this time, the neighbors are still wandering outside, because although it is dark now, it is only after 8 o'clock, so at this time there are quite a lot of people out there. And Yoruichi held Ichigo's arm and greeted some people he knew politely when he saw them. Ichigo saw this scene and said, "I didn't expect you to know a lot of people." Hearing this, Yoruichi raised his head and said, "Of course, I'm so popular." Seeing Yoruichi's childish appearance, Ichigo scratched her nose dotingly and said, "Okay, you are the best." Yoruichi wrinkled his nose at Ichigo, then smiled, and continued to hold Ichigo's arm and continued walking on the altar. Chapter 201. Finishing. After returning home, Yoruichi lay lazily on the sofa, and then said, "Ah, I'm so tired, I'm going to sleep now," and then closed his eyes and lay down. When Ichigo saw this scene, the corners of his mouth twitched, and he thought, if you want to pretend to be asleep, why not pretend to be a little bit like? Of course, these are just thoughts in my mind, and Ichigo put the cake on the table, then looked at Yoruichi and said, "Okay, it's time to pack up the items you bought today." After that, I bought Yoruichi from the system space. So the clothes were poured out. When Yoruichi heard this, he got up and said to Ichigo coquettishly, "Ichigo, dear, can you help me?" And he snorted at Ichigo, which made Ichigo unable to control himself. But Ichigo still held back and said to Yoruichi, "Okay, I bought what I bought myself, I will clean it up by myself." After saying that, he took the cake and walked towards the kitchen. And Yoruichi was very sad to see this scene and shouted, "Ichigo, you don't love me anymore, I'm so sad," and sobbing. 540. When Ichigo heard this, he didn't turn around at all. He walked towards the kitchen and said, "Don't try to lie to me, I won't be fooled." He immediately entered the kitchen, and he was very nervous and helpless after entering. After looking back at Yoruichi, he immediately started preparing to put the cake on the plate. Yoruichi, who was sitting on the sofa, was very angry when she saw Ichigo's actions, but she held back, because she also knew that she was too self-willed, so she held back. But Yoruichi didn't pack up the clothes that were piled up like a hill. Instead, turn on the TV and watch a TV show. Ichigo, who was busy in the kitchen, shook his head helplessly when he heard Yoruichi turning on the TV to watch TV series, but the doting in his eyes was not concealed at all. If Yoruichi came in at this time and saw Ichigo's eyes will be very impressed. Advertisement. And soon Ichigo put the cake on a plate and took it out. When he saw Yoruichi lying on the sofa, CGBE, and watching TV lazily, he said, "Really, Yoruichi, how many times have I said that I should finish my own affairs, and then wait until I have nothing to do? Watching TV, isn't it?" 33. But the love in Ichigo's eyes hasn't diminished at all. When Yoruichi heard it, when he turned around and was about to say something, he saw the love in Ichigo's eyes, so he said to Ichigo coquettishly, "Really, dear, you will say this to me and bully me," and put the sofa. The pillow above was also thrown towards Ichigo. Of course, Ichigo caught the pillow very easily, then walked to the coffee table, put the cake down, and said to Yoruichi, "Really, why are you throwing things?" Then he put the pillow on the original. After reaching the place, he nodded to Yoruichi's head. And Yoruichi also touched his head, blushing after being tapped, and then looked at Ichigo with embarrassment. But Ichigo didn't care about her, but put Yoruichi's clothes back in the system space, then looked at her and said, "Come on, let's clean up together." 35. After saying this, he walked towards the room where Ichigo and Yoruichi put their clothes. And after Ichigo walked towards there, Yoruichi made a face in Ichigo's direction and followed behind Ichigo towards there. And after coming to that room, Ichigo took out the clothes again, looked at Yoruichi and said, "How should I put them?" And Yoruichi came in, and after hearing his words, Yoruichi also remembered. Because this room is the room where the two of them put their clothes, but Ichigo and Yoruichi only put a few clothes here, and the rest is useless at all, so Yoruichi wanted to use this place, so he bought it so many clothes, hope can make this place applicable. And Yoruichi said after thinking. Then put my clothes here and Ichigo your clothes here, if there is extra space, let's talk about it then. 35. After hearing this, Ichigo nodded and said, okay, let's get to work. After that, he started to pack up, and Yoruichi also nodded and started to organize and pack up the clothes. Advertisement: the bags that brought these clothes were put back into the system space by both Ichigo and Yoruichi, ready to tidy up all the things here, and then go to the garbage dump and throw these things directly into it. Soon Ichigo and Yoruichi hung up all the clothes and packed up, and then they both saw that the clothes room was full of clothes. Although there was still 1 or 2 vacancies, it was almost there. Hearing this, Yoruichi was a little dissatisfied, because Ichigo only said it was okay, which made Yoruichi very unhappy. So Yoruichi pouted and looked at Ichigo and said, it's okay, it's so good, and he continued, you really don't know how to appreciate. Hearing this, Yoruichi also wanted to eat a cake, so he walked towards the lobby first. Yoruichi saw this scene and said, how is it? It's getting better here now. After saying that, Ichigo raised his head. Hearing this, Ichigo shook his head helplessly. It wasn't that Ichigo didn't understand appreciation, but that Ichigo said it on purpose. This house was designed by Ichigo himself and made by him, so to say that this is okay, not to belittle, but just to deliberately anger Yoruichi, so I said that. And Ichigo went on to say, okay, don't be angry, you will grow wrinkles when you are angry, and squeezed Yoruichi's face. This made Yoruichi pout even more, his cheeks bulge, and he said very dissatisfiedly, don't pinch my face and pull it, and opened Ichigo's mischievous hand. Seeing this scene, Ichigo smiled and shook his head and followed into the hall. When Ichigo saw it, he smiled and said, it's okay. And Ichigo laughed happily when he saw this scene, and then said, okay, I know, let's go eat some cakes to satisfy our hunger now. Chapter 202. Night Sky. And after coming to the lobby, Ichigo laughed when he saw Yoruichi eating cake in a depressed mood. When Yoruichi saw it, he was very angry, so he said to Ichigo before swallowing the cake in his mouth. What are you laughing at? Because he didn't swallow it, some of the cakes were smeared by Yoruichi. Spit it out. And Ichigo was very funny to see this scene, although Yoruichi spit out something very indecent, but in Ichigo's view Yoruichi looks like a child now, very cute, which makes Ichigo full of love. Yoruichi also knew that what he looked like just now was very indecent and disrespectful, but when he saw Ichigo's loving eyes, a trace of happiness flashed in his eyes, and then he continued eating the cake, ignoring Ichigo. And Ichigo didn't say anything after seeing it, but went directly to Yoruichi's side, picked her up directly, sat down by himself, and then let her sit on his lap. And Yoruichi didn't object after seeing this, but naturally sat on Ichigo's lap and ate a little bit of cake. After seeing this scene, Ichigo said to Yoruichi, Yoruichi, feed me a little too. He opened his mouth to Yoruichi. But Yoruichi didn't care about him at all, and was eating on his own. Ichigo was a little dissatisfied after seeing this, so he picked up Yoruichi and punched her ***. Yoruichi was very embarrassed when he felt the touch on his butt, so he bit down on Ichigo's hand. Advertisement. And after Ichigo's finger was bitten, it was funny to see Yoruichi biting himself, and then said to Yoruichi, okay, don't bite, if you bite again, it will break, and said to Yoruichi. His forehead nodded. When Yoruichi heard this, he knew that he had gone too far, so he opened his mouth and saw the bite mark on Ichigo's finger. Yoruichi looked at Ichigo with guilt and said, I'm sorry, Yoruichi is like the children were full of tears. When Yoruichi had something to say, Ichigo said it first. No need to say anything, no matter what you do, I will forgive you, whether you want to maim me or kill me, I have no regrets, said he. Also kissed Yoruichi's forehead. And Yoruichi felt even more guilty after hearing this, and Ichigo said to Yoruichi when he saw this scene. Okay, don't think about it, come on, let's go to sleep after eating these cakes, he said to Yoruichi. Up. And Yoruichi is also very cooperative with eating the cake fed by Ichigo, and Yoruichi also feeds it to Ichigo from time to time. And Ichigo smiled when he saw this scene. The two of them finished eating soon, and Yoruichi was very obedient to clean up everything with Ichigo after eating. When I went upstairs, Yoruichi kept sticking to Ichigo's body tightly. I don't know if I was afraid of Ichigo's anger or what, and Ichigo also told her not to care, but Yoruichi was still like this. After Ichigo and Yoruichi went upstairs, Ichigo did not lie on the bed, but brought Yoruichi to the balcony, and then sat on the chair on the balcony, letting Yoruichi also sit next to him and look at the night sky. Yoruichi didn't talk to her after seeing Ichigo taking her to the balcony, which made Yoruichi very puzzled. He looked up and saw that Ichigo had been looking at the night sky, which made Yoruichi look up involuntarily, wondering what caused the situation. Yes, now Yoruichi is very calm after seeing this night sky, which makes Yoruichi very enjoyable. Both of them kept looking at the night sky without speaking, until after a few minutes, Ichigo said to Yoruichi, how do you feel now? But Ichigo kept looking at the night sky. After Yoruichi heard this, he came back to his senses, and when he turned to look at Ichigo, he saw that he was still looking at the night sky, so Yoruichi also turned his head to look at the night sky and said to Ichigo, very good, have a happy look. Advertisement. Ask for flowers. Ichigo laughed when he heard this and continued, you don't know, Yoruichi. Yoruichi was puzzled and asked, "What?" Ichigo said, "This night sky is full of stars. They do their best to merge the dots of light together, although not as brilliant as the sun, not as clear as the moon. But their dreamy light is also sprinkled. When I came to the world, I turned the earth into a strange world, which aroused people's desire to explore. I stared at the stars that were all over the sky, big and small, and my heart was beating with them. The stars adorned the night sky and sprinkled their luster on the earth, whether it was a famous star or an unnamed star, but now it's like they also sprinkled luster into my heart, which calmed my heart. No longer I'm restless." After saying that, he looked towards the night. Ask her, "So do you feel the same way?" Point zero. Hearing this, Yoruichi also nodded with a smile, and laughed again, and threw himself into Ichigo's arms. He also acted coquettishly at Ichigo and said, "Really, you are so touching, I don't even know what to do." As he spoke, his arms shrank even more towards Ichigo. When Ichigo heard it, he said, "You don't have to do anything, just be yourself." He scratched Yoruichi's nose. This action is probably a habit, because Ichigo always makes this kind of action to Yoruichi inadvertently, and Yoruichi also likes Ichigo to her like this, because this represents Ichigo's love for Yoruichi. Yoruichi said, "No matter what you do, I will support you by your side and help you, be you." Chapter 203. Physique. And Ichigo was very happy after hearing this, and then said to Yoruichi, "Me too. I will always keep you by my side, no matter where I go, even if you don't want to be with me. I will use brute force to keep you by my side," and kissed Yoruichi. And when Yoruichi was going to say something after hearing Ichigo's words, Ichigo kissed Yoruichi directly, and Yoruichi couldn't say anything, so he started to respond. Yoruichi and Ichigo kissed Ichigo and carried Yoruichi into the room, and then Ichigo said, "Okay, let's rest early." Then he hugged Yoruichi and went to bed. While lying on the bed, Yoruichi put his pillow on Ichigo's chest, looked at Ichigo and said, "Ichigo, you are so nice," and then kissed Ichigo. After hearing this, Ichigo smiled and said, "Really? I'm very happy." Then he hit Yoruichi to kill. 540. And Yoruichi also enjoyed it after feeling Ichigo's care, narrowed his eyes, and shrank toward Ichigo's arms. And Ichigo felt helpless and happy when Yoruichi's clinging, and then quietly hugged Yoruichi and closed his eyes, feeling the love and tranquility that Yoruichi in the night brought him. And Yoruichi also listened to Ichigo's strong heartbeat quietly, and felt that his heart was very quiet. Ichigo feels that he has changed a lot now, because the system has changed his life. If there is no system, Ichigo is still thinking about what to eat tomorrow and the rent of the house in that small house with only more than 50 square meters, kind of. But everything has changed now. He now has a lot of power, and he has this inexhaustible amount of money. He has even found the family and love that he has longed for since he was a child, so Ichigo is very grateful to the system and also very afraid of this. It was just a dream, and when I woke up from the dream, Ichigo returned to the small house. But today Ichigo finally breathed a sigh of relief, because Ichigo got a notification after Ichigo's current strength broke through to the Spirit King. The notification given by the system is, "The host has been permanently bound, cannot be separated, and the only host cannot be changed." After hearing this, Ichigo jumped up and was very happy, so Ichigo took Yoruichi to go shopping, and he also loved Yoruichi very much. Yoruichi also felt these things, but she didn't take it to heart, but felt that it must be Ichigo wanting to make up for herself, so she did it. This is indeed because Ichigo wants to compensate Yoruichi to bring Yoruichi here, because he feels that he has been hiding some things and didn't tell Yoruichi. It feels very bad, so he took Yoruichi to buy clothes hoping to make up for something, but Yoruichi didn't find anything, but always felt that Ichigo wanted to make her buy clothes and jewelry like ordinary girls. Advertisements. So Ichigo felt that he was even more wrong, but Ichigo would never tell anyone that he came from another world, because this is the deepest secret in Ichigo's heart. Of course, Yoruichi still knows it, knowing that Ichigo is from another world. He came from another world, and he also knew that Ichigo was an otaku in the original world. He also knew all the experiences of Ichigo from childhood to adulthood in the original world. Even Ichigo knew all his embarrassing things, which made Ichigo very embarrassed at the beginning. And shy, of course. Yoruichi also used these things to make fun of Ichigo, but in the end they were all quiet after being cleaned up by Ichigo. Of course, Ichigo also knew about Yoruichi, but felt very sympathetic about Yoruichi when he was a child, because Yoruichi was not a noble. So Yoruichi was disciplined very strictly by her father when she was a child, which made Ichigo very sympathetic, but after seeing the days after Yoruichi met Urahara Kazuki made Ichigo angry again. If Yoruichi said that he had nothing to do with him, or Ichigo would have killed Urahara Kazuki long ago. And Yoruichi asked Ichigo, "Why, I can't see your message now." When I heard Ichigo, I knew. Yoruichi used the system to see Ichigo's attributes but didn't see it. This is because the system broke through and Ichigo's strength was improved. Because the information about the power of the Spirit King level can only be seen by people who are at the same level of the Spirit King or who are stronger than the Spirit King. This is also the reason why Yoruichi can see Ichigo's attributes. Hearing this, Ichigo smiled and said, "Only people of the same rank or stronger than him can see attributes, that is, when your strength is stronger than him or at the same stage as him." Yoruichi understood after hearing that, She always thought that she could see everyone's attributes at first. That was because she had not encountered a being stronger than her, and Ichigo's attributes were because Ichigo did not refuse her inspection. Otherwise, when Ichigo doesn't let her see it, Yoruichi won't be able to see Ichigo's attributes. After learning about everything, Yoruichi said coquettishly to Ichigo, "Really, why don't you let people see it?" When Ichigo heard this, he smiled and showed her his interface. Name: Kurosaki Ichigo, Hōgyoku, S*X. Male age: 15. Spouse: Shihouin Yoruichi, Soul, Potential, Unlimited. Ryatsu: Spirit King, Level 26 and 6,789 500,000. Advertisement. Zanpakuto: The perfect Zanjetsu, Final Solution, Physique. Tianquan Battle Physique, Mortal Body, can be improved. Physique: Mortal, Spiritual, King, Emperor, Immortal, God, Sage, Tao. Kido: King Shunpo, King Class White Hits, King Class. Slash: King Class Combat Experience, King Class Crescent Moon Sky Chong, King Level. Crack Sky Flash, King Class Moonless, King Class. Hollow: King Backpack. Character Fragments X6789, Intermediate Express X20000, Advanced Express X19000, Super Express X18000, Breakthrough Card X600. Because Ichigo has broken through to the level of the Spirit King, he activated his own physique, which is the weakest mortal physique, the Profound Sky Battle Physique. Although it is the weakest, in 1.4, as long as Ichigo improves his strength, then this physique will also be improved, but Ichigo has not improved, because the improvement of physique will make the body undergo earth-shaking changes, and it will also make Ichigo stronger. A big improvement, and there will be no one in the Shinigami world who can withstand Ichigo's power, so Ichigo doesn't want to improve too fast, so I feel that I won't improve my strength for the time being. If he continues to improve, then face enemies in the world of Shinigami would make it impossible for Ichigo to unleash all of his power, which would make Ichigo very awkward. Yoruichi said to Ichigo after seeing it, "Is this constitution awakened after breaking through the Spirit King?" When Ichigo heard this, he nodded and said, "Yeah. You will wake up after you break through." Then he stroked Yoruichi's head. Chapter 204. Yoruichi becomes the Spirit King, and after Yoruichi looked at Ichigo's attributes, he also wanted to improve his strength, because Yoruichi didn't want to be behind Ichigo, so Yoruichi said, "I want to improve my strength." After hearing this, Ichigo said, "Okay, just wait a few days, and the two of us can kill a few times." When Yoruichi heard it, he said, "I don't want to wait so long, I just want to improve my own strength now," he said coquettishly at Ichigo. This made Ichigo very helpless, but he still agreed and said, "Okay, I promise you, but I can only do my best. If I feel troublesome, then I will not do it." After speaking, he looked at Yoruichi angrily. Yoruichi didn't care about Ichigo's eyes at all, but kissed Ichigo directly and said, "It's alright, as long as you try your best, but pay attention to your body." Then he kissed Ichigo. Ichigo nodded when he heard it, and then went in alone to farm monsters, while Yoruichi was stopped outside. After Ichigo entered, the level of the dungeon was changed to the King level. The King level is the Spirit King level and the Virtual King level, and the dungeon level will be referred to as King level, Emperor level, etc. And then click to start. A King level Manos Grande came in from the entrance. Ichigo was a little surprised to see the human-sized avatar and the completely Ironkarized avatar, but he was not too surprised. Then Ichigo used Wuyue to give Shu a second when the Shu had not recovered, then came in through the entrance again, and was also blocked. In this way, every time one comes in, Ichigo is second, which makes Ichigo get the fragments much faster. I don't know how long it's been, Ichigo doesn't know how many Ichigos I killed, and Ichigo didn't even look at the number of fragments he got. The number of fragments. After seeing the number of fragments, Ichigo was very happy, because Ichigo killed a lot of monsters this time, so the number of fragments Ichigo now is 154,689. This number makes Ichigo very happy, because it can improve Yoruichi's strength and let her have the power to protect herself. Does Yoruichi still need the power to protect herself now? She is so powerful that no one can defeat her except the Spirit King and Ichigo. And after Ichigo finished playing, I was very happy to see my gains, and after playing a few more times, I couldn't play anymore, so I came out of the system space. And why can't keep fighting? Because although the system can create these Manos Grande out of thin air, it also needs to absorb a lot of spirits from the outside before it can be created. These are also things Ichigo only learned after breaking through to the Spirit King level. And after Ichigo came out of the system space, it was only a moment for Yoruichi, so after seeing Ichigo come out, Yoruichi said, "So soon?" And Ichigo said to Yoruichi indulgently after hearing it, "Of course, you don't know how much time it takes to come out after you go in, it's just a moment," and he scratched Yoruichi's nose. Advertisement in Yoruichi was also very embarrassed when she heard it, because she knew it, but because Ichigo suddenly appeared, she subconsciously said this question, so Yoruichi was very embarrassed to reveal this sentence and said, "Ichigo, how is your harvest?" Ichigo laughed after hearing Yoruichi's question, because Ichigo knew what Yoruichi was thinking, so he laughed, but he didn't break it and said, "This time the harvest is not bad, enough for you to break through," and said yes, stroking Yoruichi's head. When Yoruichi heard it, he became even more happy and said, "Really? I'm so happy, Ichigo. He jumped on Ichigo's body and kissed Ichigo. This made Ichigo very angry, because boys couldn't let girls take the initiative and passive, so Ichigo immediately took the initiative. And when Ichigo was about to lose control, Yoruichi stopped Ichigo and said, "Wait a while, I'll lift myself up first," and kissed Ichigo's forehead. And although Ichigo was a little uncomfortable, he still held back and said, "Okay." When Yoruichi heard it, he was very moved and immediately kissed Ichigo, but he was afraid that he couldn't control it, so he looked at Ichigo apologetically and put his eyes on the attribute interface. After she raised her strength, Ichigo also looked at her attributes. Name: Shihouin Yoruichi, Hōgyoku, gender: female. Age: 145,403 years old. Spouse: Kurosaki Ichigo, soul. Potential: Unlimited Ryotsu. Super Captain. Level 25 and 54,689 500,000ths. Advertisement: Zanpakudo. Night Fist, final solution. Physique: Dark Knight. Profound body, ordinary level, can break through, physical, mortal, spirit, king, emperor, immortal, god, sage, Dao. Kido: King Shunpo. King class backpack. Character fragments times 54,689, intermediate experience beads times 20,000, advanced experience beads times 19,000, super experience beads times 18,000, breakthrough card times 600. King class instant open. King rank. After seeing her physique, she is very happy. Although her physique has not been activated yet, only when her physique reaches the spiritual level, she can get the increase of her physique and some secret methods of her physique. But this does not prevent Yoruichi from being happy. White hits. King class Thor battle body, King class. Combat experience. King class Ichigo said, "Okay, don't upgrade your physique yet, let's talk about it after you go to another world." Hollow. King chapter 205. Leisure. Soon Yoruichi also got up. It was because of some reasons that Yoruichi's body was a little uncomfortable, so Yoruichi got up, and then looked at Ichigo and said charmingly, "Really?" Hearing this, Ichigo was embarrassed, because it was really a mistake, because it was a natural reaction, so Ichigo didn't know what to say, but said to Yoruichi very gently, "Are you awake?" And Yoruichi opened his eyes and looked at Ichigo a little confusedly and said, "Of course, it's not because you were doing evil." Then he looked at Ichigo very mockingly. Ceiling, and Ichigo knew that he couldn't refuse Yoruichi after hearing Yoruichi's words, so he had to think. Get hot, it's nothing anyway." After thinking about it, Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "Okay, I'll be with you as long as you think about it, so let's just lie here for a while." After that, I kissed Yoruichi. Yoruichi is also very happy after hearing Ichigo's words, because this is the life Yoruichi has always wanted, that is, a life with this Ichigo and a dull life. Although Yoruichi likes this kind of life very much, but she also likes the feeling of fighting with the opponents fist to fist, so it can be said that Yoruichi is a person who is very similar to Ichigo. Probably this is what made Ichigo and Yoruichi walk together. Of course, this can't be the only reason, because there are many other factors that made Ichigo and Yoruichi together. Of course, the most important thing is Ichigo's heart that has always loved Yoruichi, which made Yoruichi gradually fall in love with Ichigo, so these are all required to pay in order to be rewarded. And Yoruichi was very happy after hearing Ichigo's words. "I love you the most, I go," and kissed Ichigo. And when Ichigo got up, he went to the bathroom to wash his body, and Yoruichi looked at the wandering traces very helplessly. And Ichigo smiled after hearing it and said, "I see, then I'll get up first, then you can rest. Please." He stroked Yoruichi's hair for a while and then left, while Yoruichi looked at Ichigo with some dissatisfaction, because he messed up Yoruichi's hair, which made Yoruichi a little dissatisfied. And Yoruichi already knew that Ichigo was going to get up after hearing it, so he didn't act like a spoiled child in the future and asked him to continue to accompany her again, but said obediently, "I see, then you go first, I'll sleep for a while. I'll get up." As if he was afraid that Ichigo would refuse, he acted like a spoiled child at Ichigo. And Ichigo said softly to Yoruichi, "Okay, that's it, I'm going to get up and cook now," and kissed Yoruichi's forehead. And Yoruichi has been lying in Ichigo's arms and listening to Ichigo's heartbeat. She feels very happy now. After the two of them had been in bed for over an hour, Ichigo got up. Ichigo smiled and said, "I don't love you, who else do I love?" He scratched Yoruichi's nose, and Yoruichi laughed after feeling Ichigo's love, and he smiled very happily. It made Ichigo feel that he had no other regrets in his life. As long as he was with Yoruichi, it was enough. Of course, this was also fleeting, and immediately he was very happy lying on the bed, and there was this smile on the corner of his mouth. Chapter 206. Life. Fortunately, Ichigo is not here, otherwise if I hear about Yoruichi, Ichigo will definitely fight Yoruichi for another 300 rounds and make Yoruichi have no strength at all until it ends. Of course, if Ichigo heard Yoruichi's words, he would be very proud and say, "How could he be afraid because of this? I am a person who is not bad in King Kong, and then I will do evil to Yoruichi." Thinking of this, Yoruichi also felt fortunate, because Ichigo was not here, otherwise Yoruichi could not guarantee that he would be able to stop Ichigo's offensive, but Yoruichi also thought, Ichigo is really a beast. Even so, he will not be defeated. Of course, this also makes Yi 540 very happy. Otherwise, if you find a man who can't satisfy you, then your final relationship will not be complete. So Yoruichi is very fortunate that he can have such a perfect man who treats him so well, so Yoruichi also cherishes this relationship between himself and Ichigo, and will never let his relationship with Ichigo be hurt a little. So in order to make the relationship between Ichigo and the two of them perfect, Yoruichi also thought about a lot of things, read a lot of books, hoping to get the answer he wanted from here, but still nothing, so Yoruichi turned to Ichigo's mother Kurosaki Masaki asked this question. Because Ichigo can give everything for Yoruichi, even his life, of course, although Ichigo was not exhausted from yesterday's battle, it also made Ichigo a little tired, so Ichigo will rest in the bathtub. After thinking about these things, Yoruichi got up and walked into the bathroom, because although the matter of love has little to do with those things, even this matter is not absolutely impossible, so Yoruichi will not refuse. Ichigo, because she also knows that this is a symbol of Ichigo's fear of losing himself, so, CGBE, Yoruichi will cooperate very well, and will play some new tricks with Ichigo. While Ichigo was lying quietly in the bathtub, he suddenly heard the door in the bathroom being opened. Ichigo knew that Yoruichi was coming, but Ichigo didn't expect Yoruichi to come, and thought she was tired and needed to be there. Lie on the bed for a while. Thinking back on what he did last night makes Ichigo very proud, because he made Yoruichi beg for mercy again, so this is a victory for any man, especially for Ichigo. And after hearing Kurosaki Masaki's words, Yoruichi also knew, so he stopped reading the book, hoping to find a constant way of feeling from it. When Ichigo heard it, he opened his eyes and looked at Yoruichi, who knew that Yoruichi also came in to take a bath. Ichigo saw that his mouth was dry, so he acted immediately. After that, Ichigo hugged Yoruichi and lay down and rested in the bathtub, and let Yoruichi rest on his body. It didn't take long for Yoruichi to fall asleep in Ichigo's arms. When he saw Yoruichi fell asleep in his arms, he immediately fell asleep. After wiping Yoruichi's body, he carried her back to the bed and let her rest. And Kurosaki Masaki said to Yoruichi, "Just go step by step, you don't need to fix so many useless things, emotional things are not read from those books, but they are learned from experience, so I agree with let's live well together, Ichigo." And Ichigo, who was taking a bath in it, closed his eyes and lay down in the bathtub after washing it. Advertisement Chapter 207. In life after Yoruichi was in bed again, Ichigo went to the kitchen to prepare food, because Ichigo didn't want Yoruichi to starve. After Ichigo came to the kitchen, I saw that there were few things in the kitchen, so Ichigo was very helpless, but Ichigo had to put on clothes and go to the grocery store to buy food and came back. And Ichigo went upstairs to see Yoruichi still sleeping, saw her cute sleeping position, Ichigo kissed her forehead, left a note and went down. When I went out, Ichigo locked the door, and then went to the vegetable store on foot, because the vegetable store is not very far from Ichigo's home, so Ichigo always walked with Yoruichi when he was shopping, buy groceries here. And after Ichigo came to the vegetable store, the owner of the vegetable store said enthusiastically, "Come to buy vegetables?" And Ichigo was accustomed to saying to her, "Yeah, auntie," and smiled. Of course it's just a simple laugh that greets people, nothing, and there's no comparison at all with Yoruichi's smile. When the store manager heard Ichigo's greeting, he smiled and responded, then looked at Ichigo and said, "Where's your girlfriend? Isn't she following you all the time?" "Because we always came together before, the owner of this shop also knew us." Ichigo said, "Oh, she's not feeling well today, so she's resting at home." Of course this was a white lie Ichigo had. Otherwise it would have been embarrassing to tell the truth. Advertisement and the store manager hurriedly said, "Then it doesn't matter, right?" Seeing the worried look in the store manager's eyes made Ichigo very helpless, but he continued, "It's nothing, it's just a small cold, I've given her medicine, and now she's resting at home." He said to Yoruichi, "I apologized in my heart and said, I am not cursing you." When Yoruichi woke up at home, she saw no one beside her and called out, "Ichigo, Ichigo." But there was no response, so when she was about to get up to look for Ichigo, she saw a note on the bedside table, and she took it and looked at it. After a while, I knew where Ichigo had gone. When she knew that Ichigo was going grocery shopping, she was about to get up to clean up the room, but when she wanted to get up, she fell back on the bed because her body was still soft, which made Yoruichi complain a little bit about Ichigo, and then Yoruichi hit a sneeze, which made Yoruichi a little weird. Because it is impossible for Ichigo and Yoruichi to be sick now, Yoruichi thought. Who is talking about me? It must be Ichigo thinking about me. I thought happily, if Yoruichi knew that Ichigo was talking about her, although it's a joke, but Yoruichi will still be a little depressed and angry and then attack Ichigo. Although Ichigo attacked Ichigo in the end, and then defeated her, Yoruichi will never give up to attack Ichigo. And Ichigo, who was in the vegetable shop, also suddenly felt that his nose was a little itchy, but he held back, then looked at the manager and said, "Okay, boss, let's talk later. I'd better buy all the vegetables and take them home. Let's cook." After saying that, he told the store manager all the dishes he wanted to buy, and the store manager quickly brought everything out to Ichigo. And Ichigo said to the store manager after paying the bill, "I'll go first," and then went back to the original road. The store manager said to Ichigo, "Be careful on the road, you can come here and talk to me when there is nothing in the future." He also waved his hand. When Ichigo came out of the store and saw this scene, he laughed and said, "I know, I will." As he was about to turn around and walk away, he remembered the manager's voice again. The store manager continued. And don't forget to bring your girlfriend over with you, he said with great reluctance. Advertisement. Ask for flowers. Because this aunt has a child of her own, but the child grows up and has a family, so she seldom goes home to see her mother, so the aunt misses them very much, so she is very lonely, and she wants Ichigo and Yoruichi to accompany her and say talk or something. When Ichigo heard it, he smiled and nodded and said, I will, and I brought her with me. Then he waved to the store manager and left. On the way, he met a lot of neighbors, and Ichigo smiled and greeted them all, which made Ichigo very helpless and confused, because it was after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and there were still so many people on the street. This made Ichigo strange too, but he didn't take it to heart. Soon Ichigo came to the door of the house, and after opening the door and entering, Ichigo heard Yoruichi's call, so Ichigo went to the bedroom after putting all the dishes in the kitchen. After entering the bedroom, Yoruichi said to Ichigo coquettishly, Why are you here now? Really, it makes me so worried and scared. Hearing this, Ichigo was very puzzled, thinking about what to worry about, but Ichigo didn't ask, but said, I'm just late because I told them something, Yoruichi said. And Yoruichi quietly lowered his head after understanding the matter, as if admitting his mistake. Ichigo saw this scene and thought Yoruichi was so funny, and thought that such a life is really good. And Ichigo stroked Yoruichi's head and said, Okay, I like Yoruichi the most, and he thought in his heart. I will always love you no matter what. If anyone dares to interfere in my life with Yoruichi, I will be you that will let him die without a place to be buried. Chapter 208. Living under. After Ichigo finished speaking, he said to Yoruichi, Okay, I'm going to cook first. You can rest here for a while now. He was about to go out. And Yoruichi coquettishly said to Ichigo, I don't want to be separated from you. I'm going to the hall to watch TV. Hearing this, Ichigo was very helpless, but seeing Yoruichi's cute appearance, he had to agree, then came to Yoruichi's side, hugged her with the princess, kissed Yoruichi's nose and said, You really let me love it and hate it. Hearing this, Yoruichi looked at Ichigo as if he didn't understand, and Ichigo didn't continue to say anything to Yoruichi, but carried Yoruichi directly to the sofa. May 4-3. In the lobby, put Yoruichi down and turned on the TV for her and said, Okay, I've turned on the TV for you, so you can watch TV to clear up your boring time. I'm going to the kitchen. He gave Yoruichi the remote control. Yoruichi also said to Ichigo after hearing it, I see, then finish the dish sooner. He pretended to look at Ichigo pitifully, which made Ichigo smile and walk back to the kitchen. After Ichigo walked into the kitchen, Yoruichi also turned his attention to the TV. Watching some TV programs, Yoruichi also felt a little interesting, so he watched TV with great interest. Ichigo, who entered the kitchen, set his eyes on the vegetables. Because he bought a lot of vegetables, Ichigo didn't know what to do for the time being. But I immediately thought of what I was going to do, so I started to prepare for it. The dish was finished in more than 30 minutes. This time, Ichigo started to prepare sushi. Because Japanese sushi is very famous, Ichigo also learned how to make sushi recently, so I made sushi for Yoruichi today. When Ichigo brought out the sushi he had made, he saw Yoruichi watching the serial, and it was the most painful drama for women. Advertisement. This surprised Ichigo a little, but it didn't take long for Ichigo to put the sushi on the coffee table in front of the sofa, then sat next to Yoruichi and took her into his arms and said, Okay, it's time for us to eat, and said yes, nodding to Yoruichi's nose. And Yoruichi nodded when he saw it, but didn't do it, which made Ichigo laugh, and then Ichigo fed Yoruichi with sushi and ate it himself. And Yoruichi's eyes never left the TV, which made Ichigo have to sigh that women are still women. And after finishing his sushi, Ichigo took the plate into the kitchen and started to clean up, while Yoruichi was still there watching TV. Soon Yoruichi's drama was over, and Yoruichi came back to his senses and said, Ichigo, what are you doing? When Ichigo heard this, he said, I'm clearing the dishes. And Yoruichi got up immediately, walked towards the kitchen and said, Why didn't you call me? I'll just clean up. Because of the long rest, Yoruichi has recovered. Yoruichi came to the kitchen and saw that Ichigo had cleaned up all the tableware and complained, Really, why didn't you tell me? Hearing this, Ichigo said helplessly, Okay, stop talking, let's go. Let's sit on the sofa for a while. Then he pulled Yoruichi and walked away. Of course, Yoruichi still puffed out his mouth and looked very angry, but in Ichigo's eyes, he was very cute, which made Ichigo's love for Yoruichi even more. After sitting down on the sofa, Yoruichi naturally lay in Ichigo's arms, watching the program on TV. The two of them were very leisurely, lying lazily on the sofa. Of course, Ichigo also controlled the remote control to change the channel. I didn't know what programs to watch, so I kept changing the channel until a very good program came out. Ichigo didn't change the channel anymore, but started talking to Yoruichi. Love story watching TV. Advertisement. In Yoruichi was also told by Ichigo's words that he couldn't find it. Of course, it would be terrible if Ichigo and Yoruichi were disturbed by someone at this time, and that person would be cut into pieces by Ichigo and Yoruichi. And when Ichigo and Yoruichi were about to meet at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Yoruichi got up and said to Ichigo, Okay, it's a little late now, so let's go shopping and buy clothes for parents. 5. Hearing this, Ichigo also understood, so he said, Got it, let's go. Then he hugged Yoruichi and walked towards the bedroom. Soon Ichigo and Yoruichi finished their clothes and went out. The two of them immediately arrived at the place they visited yesterday, and then walked towards the clothing stores. This time, instead of letting Ichigo keep holding the clothes like the last time, Ichigo 1.4 put all the clothes into system space, which made Ichigo more relaxed. Soon I bought all the clothes I was going to bring to my parents, and then went to a cafe to sit and rest, and Yoruichi said, "What else do I need to buy now?" After hearing this, Ichigo said, "I don't need to buy anything more now, this is enough." Then he stroked Yoruichi's hair. And Yoruichi nodded after hearing that. It wasn't long before Ichigo and Yoruichi also got up and walked towards the house, of course Kurosaki Ishin's house, and of course Ichigo's house. Chapter 209. Going home, it didn't take long for the two of them to arrive at the door of the house, and just as they were about to enter, the door was opened, and it was Ichigo's sister Kurosaki Shirley who opened the door. Today's Kurosaki Shirley is going to go out for a walk and relax. As soon as he went out, he ran into Ichigo and Yoruichi, and then directly fell into Ichigo's arms and said, "I miss you so much, brother Ichigo. Why are you only now? Come back." 99. Hearing this, Ichigo also knew that he had indeed been away from home a lot more recently, so Ichigo made up his mind to spend some time with his family recently. Ichigo said, "Okay, I'm back now, don't do this," said to Kurosaki Shirley, driving what his brother could do, which is to kill him. Kurosaki Shirley and Kurosaki Yuzu liked to be touched by Ichigo and to be close to Ichigo. And Kurosaki Shirley let go of Ichigo after hearing Ichigo's words and said, "Ichigo-san, where have you been recently? Did you just come back?" Hearing Kurosaki Shirley's question, Ichigo patiently answered Kurosaki Shirley one by one. And he said to Kurosaki Shirley, "I brought you a present." Hearing this, Kurosaki Shirley was even more happy, so he quickly opened the door of the house, and then said to Kurosaki Yuzu who was inside, "Yuzu's mother and father, Ichigo brother and Yoruichi sister are back," and shouted loudly. The people inside came out when they heard Kurosaki Shirley's shout, and they were very happy after seeing the figures of Ichigo and Yoruichi, and Kurosaki Yuzu also rushed into Ichigo's arms like Kurosaki Shirley, which made Ichigo also embarrassing. Because Ichigo felt like a strange uncle, as if he had raised his own sister, which made Ichigo feel strange. Advertisement, but Ichigo didn't worry too much, and said, "Okay, Yuzu, I'll bring a gift. I can't take it out of you holding me like this." Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu also knew what she was doing now, and she felt very shy. Although she let go of Ichigo, she still held onto Ichigo's arm. This made Ichigo helpless, but Ichigo didn't say anything, but looked at Kurosaki Ishin and Kurosaki Masaki and said, "Mom, I'm back." Then they said to Ichigo, "Welcome home, Ichigo." After hearing this, Kurosaki Shirley and Kurosaki Yuzu also said to Ichigo, "Welcome home, Ichigo-san, brother." Hearing this, Ichigo said, "I'm back," and laughed, and everyone laughed. But Yoruichi said at this time, "Aren't you welcome?" After Yoruichi said this, Kurosaki Ishin and the others also went up to comfort Yoruichi, but Yoruichi still pretended to be sad, which made it even more difficult for them, and they didn't know what to do. And Kurosaki Shirley and Yuzu sisters hugged Yoruichi's arms and acted coquettishly towards Ichigo, which made Ichigo laugh. Hearing Ichigo's laughter, everyone turned to look at Ichigo, not understanding why Ichigo was laughing. Ichigo smiled after seeing everyone looking at him and said, "Well, it's not because your actions make me feel funny." 35. Hearing this, Yoruichi was dissatisfied, because this matter was related to Yoruichi, so Yoruichi said out loud, "Do you think this is funny? Yoruichi will definitely play tricks on Ichigo if she wants to." Advertisement, and Ichigo came back and said, "It's not your parents yet." Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin and Kurosaki Masaki didn't understand, it was because of them that they laughed. And Ichigo said, "It's not because of you, you two elders are going to comfort Yoruichi, especially Dad, don't you know Yoruichi's character? You've been fooled like this." Kurosaki Masaki didn't give Kurosaki Ishin any face when he heard it and said, "It's okay to make fun of you, but you've been so rude all day, no matter who sees it, it will be strange." The petrified Kurosaki Ishin went first. Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki didn't understand and asked, "Why do you ask?" In the yard, only Kurosaki Ishin and Kurosaki Masaki were left, and Kurosaki Ishin said to Kurosaki Masaki, "Am I being so rude?" 35. When Ichigo saw that his father was angry and didn't know what to do with Yoruichi, he smiled and said 543. "Okay, it's just a joke, don't be angry." Then he took Yoruichi's hand in the palm of his hand, he looked at Kurosaki Ishin and Kurosaki Masaki and said, "Okay, let's go first." Then he took Yoruichi to the house. Kurosaki Ishin said, "How else would Yoruichi play tricks on me like this?" And when passing by Kurosaki Shirley and Yuzu, he said to them, "Okay, let's go inside and get gifts together." Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin felt a burst of shame when he thought of his actions and Yoruichi's character, because he had been fooled by Yoruichi. She is a person who has lived for more than 100 years. Could it be because of such a small thing? Are you crying? Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters happily walked in with Ichigo and the others. Thinking of this, Kurosaki Ishin blushed a little, then looked at Yoruichi, pointed at her and said, You. He didn't know what to say, but he was actually defeated by his own daughter-in-law, which made Kurosaki Ishin very angry. Chapter 210. Clothes. And after entering, Ichigo said to Kurosaki Yuzu and Shirley, "Okay, make room a little bit." Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu and Shirley didn't say anything, but they obediently vacated some space. And Ichigo smiled after seeing this scene, and then opened the system space and poured out the contents. The Kurosaki sisters were not nervous or afraid when they saw a big hole suddenly appeared in the void, but looked at where they were very curious, and a lot of clothes and food came out from the inside, which made the Kurosaki sisters very happy. He rushed towards the piles of things, and after jumping in, Kurosaki shyly looked at Ichigo and said, "Are these things for us, Ichigo brother?" And Kurosaki Yuzu watched nervously, Ichigo. When Ichigo saw how cute the two of them looked, he smiled and said, "Of course I bought it for my cute sisters." Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters shouted happily, "I love you the most, Ichigo-san, brother," and immediately started picking out what they liked. And Kurosaki Masaki, who came in from the outside, was surprised to see what was piled up there, but when he saw Ichigo's smile, he knew it must be Ichigo's work. So Kurosaki Masaki said to Ichigo, "What is this doing, Ichigo?" When Ichigo was about to say something after hearing it, Yoruichi took Kurosaki Masaki to the side and started talking. After learning all about it, Kurosaki Masaki blamed Ichigo. "Really, Ichigo, how could you do this?" Hearing this, Ichigo was stunned, not knowing what he was doing, and Yoruichi was also stunned. Ichigo knew it wasn't Yoruichi's business when he saw Yoruichi's appearance, so he asked Kurosaki Masaki, "Mom, what's wrong with me?" Advertisement at this time, Yoruichi also set his eyes on Kurosaki Masaki, not knowing what she just said, but Kurosaki Masaki knew that what she said just now was a little strange, so he said, "It's none of your business, Ichigo, and it's not none of your business. It's just that." Kurosaki Masaki doesn't know what to say. And Ichigo said softly to Kurosaki Masaki, "Don't worry, take your time." After hearing Ichigo's words, Kurosaki Masaki said to Ichigo, "It's not because you buy these luxury items, what if you let Shirley and Yuzu learn badly?" Ichigo was still very serious about listening to what he had done wrong, but after hearing this, he knew what it meant. It turned out to be because he was afraid that Ichigo would keep buying extravagant things for Kurosaki Shirley and Kurosaki Yuzu, and let them develop bad habit, so stop Ichigo. But after Ichigo understood Kurosaki Masaki's meaning, he said to her, "Mom, it doesn't matter, as the saying goes. Boys are poor, girls are rich, and letting them touch these things is to let them choose their other half in the future. When the time comes, the vision can be high, so there is nothing to do." After hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki also understood what Ichigo was thinking, but thought about it and said, "What if they don't like it?" 35. Hearing this, Ichigo was speechless, while Yoruichi snickered. And Kurosaki Yuzu saw Yoruichi laughing all the time and asked, "Sister Yoruichi, is there anything funny?" Because Yoruichi's strength is there, and he has a very strong physique, he can listen to it even from far away to the words of Ichigo and Kurosaki Masaki, and Yoruichi is not far from Kurosaki Yuzu and them, so Kurosaki Yuzu and shyly hear when Yoruichi laughs. And Yoruichi heard Kurosaki Yuzu's question and said, "Of course I'm watching a fool's joke." Hearing this, Kurosaki shyly understood, and said, "Yoruichi-san is talking about Ichigo-san, but why do you say it's an idiot?" She looked at Yoruichi incomprehensibly. After hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu looked at Yoruichi in confusion and said, "That's right, my brother is very smart, otherwise how could he have made so much money?" 35. Hearing this, Yoruichi was helpless, because even if Yoruichi told them, they would not understand now, so he said, "Okay, I don't want to, because this matter can only be understood by women when they grow up, so if you want to understand, you will only know when you grow up sooner." Advertisement hearing this, the two of them seemed to understand. Although the two of them have this great relationship for the future, but this relationship has a lot of family parts, so although Yoruichi knew that they liked Ichigo very much, but did not say it explicitly because it was afraid of causing adverse effects. After that, the two of them didn't think much about it, and continued to find what they wanted in the pile of things. Because Ichigo and Yoruichi didn't know what kind of clothes to buy for the Kurosaki sisters and the Kurosaki couple, they bought all the clothes in the clothing store, so there are so many clothes here. And Ichigo took a lot of effort to say Kurosaki Masaki, and Kurosaki Masaki also felt that there was some truth in what Ichigo said and didn't pursue him anymore. At this time, Kurosaki Ishin also came in from the yard, and seeing Kurosaki Ishin coming in, Kurosaki Masaki's eyes lit up, but when Kurosaki Ishin looked at her, he hid. And Ichigo and Yoruichi both noticed, but didn't say it. Soon Kurosaki Ishin walked over to Kurosaki Masaki and saw the things piled up here and asked, "What's the matter?" Kurosaki Masaki said to Kurosaki Ishin, "Ichigo bought these for us, so Yuzu and Shirley were there picking out their clothes." Hearing this, Kurosaki Ichi, Mr. Lee, was very happy and looked at Ichigo and said, "It's amazing, Ichigo, I really want to thank you. Because the closet in the house is too big, there is no way to do it all. After putting it away, we are also worrying about how to solve this matter. Who would have thought that you would buy so many clothes, and finally you can make use of the extra space in the closet." Hearing this, Ichigo also smiled and said, "It's nothing." At this time, Kurosaki Masaki said, "Okay, you think these clothes can make the wardrobe useful, so you can take care of the wardrobe. By the way, put my clothes and children's clothes on the inside the closet." Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin was stunned, and Ichigo also felt that his mother was too powerful after hearing this, and Yoruichi wanted to learn something from here and use it on Ichigo. Chapter 211, Homely. And Kurosaki Ishin finally had to put his head down to pack those clothes, while Kurosaki Yuzu and Shirley were pulled away by Kurosaki Masaki and said, "Leave the rest to your father. Let's go somewhere to rest." Here Kurosaki sisters also nodded obediently, and Kurosaki Masaki went to the living room to sit down and watch TV. Since it is not yet dinner time, the Kurosaki family has no plans to prepare dinner, because it will not be done until that time. And Ichigo also carried Yoruichi to the sofa to watch TV, and Kurosaki Masaki also asked Ichigo and Yoruichi what happened after they went. And Ichigo and Yoruichi also told them one by one. Kurosaki Yuzu was very worried and said, "Then you are not injured, are you?" Hearing that Ichigo hadn't said anything yet, Kurosaki shyly said, "Of course it's impossible, otherwise you look at how injured Ichigo and Yoruichi look." Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu also reacted and said, "That's right," and he laughed dryly. And Kurosaki Masaki hugged Kurosaki Yuzu and said, "That's because Yuzu is kind. Otherwise, how could he behave like this?" 543-95. Hearing this, Ichigo and Yoruichi nodded in agreement and said, "Indeed, Yuzu is really kind." Even Kurosaki shyly nodded and said, "Yeah, I'm just afraid that Yuzu's character will hurt her in the future." She also preached to her like a little adult. Advertisement. This scene made Ichigo and the others all laugh, because it was very contrasting to see her serious face saying such words. This contrast makes Kurosaki shyly look cute. And Kurosaki shyly knew they were laughing and puffed out her mouth in disgust, and Ichigo touched her head and said, "I'm not laughing at you, but because you were cute, with a serious look on your face. Just made us laugh." Hearing this, Kurosaki shyly calmed down a bit, but he was still quite angry, so he said, "You guys really make me angry, I'm ignoring you," and then turned around and stopped looking at them. When CGBE saw this scene, Ichigo looked at Yoruichi and Kurosaki Masaki and Yuzu, and gestured with his eyes, saying, "You can think of a way, but I can't." He gestured to play with his eyes and looked at his phone. Yoruichi was very angry when he saw this scene, so he used female means on Ichigo's thigh, which made Ichigo both helpless and funny. But Yoruichi used Ichigo a little and then started to coax Kurosaki shyly along with Kurosaki Masaki and Kurosaki Yuzu. And Ichigo watched them coax another girl in secret, which made Ichigo very proud, because he didn't have to participate in it, or he would be worried. Soon Kurosaki shyly was coaxed and recovered by them, but she looked at Ichigo with dissatisfaction, which made Ichigo very puzzled, but Ichigo didn't take it to heart, because he thought it should be Yoruichi who said something to me, otherwise Kurosaki shyly wouldn't look at me like that. Although Ichigo thought so in his heart, this time it was really not Yoruichi who spoke ill of him, but Kurosaki shyly who hoped to comfort her in the future, so such a situation would occur. Who would have thought that Ichigo did not comfort her at all, which made me very sad. Angry is also very helpless. Advertisement, because it means that Ichigo doesn't see her as a woman at all, but his own sister, which makes Kurosaki shyly very depressed and angry. Of course, Ichigo didn't find it at all, and Yoruichi found it more or less. Kurosaki Masaki and Kurosaki Ishin are really Kurosaki sisters' minds, so they neither disagree nor agree, just neutral. Feel free to see. When Kurosaki Masaki saw it, he came to Kurosaki Ishin and massaged him. "How do you feel?" This sentence petrified Kurosaki Yuzu, who muttered the words, "Daddy is pervert, daddy is pervert." When Kurosaki Masaki heard this, a glint flashed in his eyes and said, "Is it really that comfortable?" He said that the strength in his hands increased, and the corner of his mouth smiled. And Kurosaki Ishin had to flatter Kurosaki Masaki all the time, which made Ichigo snicker, and Yoruichi and Kurosaki sisters snickered along with Ichigo. And Kurosaki Masaki was not too embarrassed. Kurosaki Ishin quickly let him go and sat on the sofa, watching TV together. Moreover, Kurosaki Ishin also sat next to the Kurosaki sisters and wanted to hold them and watch TV together, but they did not give Kurosaki Ishin any face at all, and went directly to Kurosaki Masaki, held her arm and stuck out her tongue at Kurosaki Ishin. Soon Kurosaki Ishin finished packing all his clothes, then came to the living room sofa and sat down and said, "I'm so tired, I finally finished packing." Then he hammered his shoulder. Hearing this, I also felt the hands massaging my shoulders and said, "Of course it's very comfortable, it's really comfortable, and I feel that my fatigue is gone." Of course the one who was hurt the most was Kurosaki Ishin, who was broken when he heard his daughter say he was a pervert. This scene made Kurosaki Ishin very sad. Of course, this is just Kurosaki Ishin pretending. But of course the kind Kurosaki Yuzu was fooled, and when he was about to come to him to comfort him, Kurosaki shyly grabbed Kurosaki Yuzu's hand and said, "Don't believe him, he is a love girl." It was disgusting to look at him. Chapter 212, Dinner. And when Kurosaki Yuzu shyly and the others were joking with Kurosaki Ishin, it was time to make dinner, so Kurosaki Masaki went to the kitchen, although Ichigo wanted to help. But Kurosaki Masaki refused, so Ichigo had to stay here watching TV for entertainment. But Yoruichi followed Kurosaki Masaki to the kitchen. Although Kurosaki Masaki saw it, she did not stop her, because in her idea, women must learn some cooking skills, otherwise how can they be the pillars of a man's family? After Yoruichi and Kurosaki Masaki entered the kitchen, Ichigo also took his eyes back, and at this time Kurosaki Yuzu and Kurosaki Shirley went directly to Ichigo's side, and held one of Ichigo's arms. Seeing this scene, Ichigo said helplessly, "What are you going to do?" She wanted to take out her hand, but Kurosaki didn't let him take it out at all, and hugged Ichigo's arm even harder. This made Ichigo amuse. Kurosaki Yuzu said, "Brother, don't we want to be intimate with you?" And Kurosaki Shirley also said, "Ichigo-san, can't I get closer to you?" Saying that, both of them slapped Ichigo and smashed Ichigo's hand, which made Ichigo laugh and say, "You really make me have no choice." 35. While talking, he slapped the two of them, and the two of them were excited to rub against Ichigo's palm, which made Ichigo's palm feel itchy. And Ichigo said, "Okay, let's talk about something quietly now, and watch TV too, okay?" And the Kurosaki sisters nodded. Ichigo was also satisfied after seeing it. When he was about to say something, Kurosaki Shirley said, "Ichigo brother, please tell me what happened after you went to Hueco Mundo." 35 Looking forward to seeing Ichigo, and Kurosaki Yuzu also looked expectantly, Ichigo too. Advertisement. This made Ichigo helpless, so he began to talk about his affairs after he went to the virtual circle. And Kurosaki Ishin was watching TV and listening to Ichigo's experience from time to time, which made Ichigo chuckle when he saw it. And Ichigo quickly finished what he had to say, and when the Kurosaki sisters and the others had something to say, Kurosaki Masaki said, "It's dinner, come and eat." Hearing this, Ichigo let out a sigh of relief, and Kurosaki sisters pouted and was very upset, but there was nothing else they could do, so they went to the bathroom to wash their hands. After they washed their hands one after another, they all came to the dining table and sat down. Kurosaki Ishin said, "Let's have dinner." After that, everyone started to eat. During the meal, Kurosaki Masaki and Kurosaki Ishin asked Ichigo and Yoruichi questions from time to time, asking about the experience of going to Hueco Mundo. This time, and Ichigo and Yoruichi also answered one by one, and the Kurosaki sisters sat next to Yoruichi. And Yoruichi have been whispering something, although Ichigo can hear, but Ichigo doesn't listen, but after seeing Yoruichi looking at Ichigo from time to time, and then saying something to Kurosaki sisters, he is still smiling. This makes Ichigo feel unnatural. Soon the dinner was over, and after Ichigo said, "Let me clean up this time." Without waiting for Kurosaki Masaki to say anything, he took all the plates into the kitchen. Yoruichi originally wanted to follow her in, but the Kurosaki sisters went directly into the kitchen to help Ichigo, so Yoruichi didn't need his own help and sat down on the sofa to rest. When Ichigo was in the kitchen with boiling water to wash the dishes, he saw the Kurosaki sisters entering and said strangely, "What are you doing here?" And the Kurosaki sisters said in unison, "Of course I'm here to help you, otherwise what?" Hearing this, Ichigo said helplessly, "No need, you go back, leave it to me." When they wanted to let them go out, they went directly to the sink and said, "Let's help you." He started to wash the dishes. After seeing this, Ichigo had to ask them to help, and Ichigo began to brush up. Advertisement. Ask for flowers. During the wash, the Kurosaki sisters and Ichigo started to play, because the Kurosaki sisters actually attacked Ichigo with water and foam. Made Ichigo very embarrassed, and Ichigo also began to counterattack against them, and soon they finished washing the dishes in laughter and laughter. On the way, Kurosaki Masaki also came in once, because he wanted to get some drinks, so he came in and got it. After seeing the Ichigo and Kurosaki sisters playing, they went out without saying anything, but Ichigo and the others were not in the mood to continue playing, so they washed the dishes so quickly. But seeing the water stains and foam on the ground gave Ichigo and Kurosaki a headache, but Ichigo cleaned them up one by one with a mop. This time Ichigo was very determined to let the Kurosaki sisters go out, alone. Tidy up the kitchen. And after Ichigo came out, I saw the Kurosaki sisters sitting there feeling guilty and asking, "What's wrong?" When they heard Ichigo's question, they were going to say something, but when they were about to say it, Kurosaki Masaki coughed lightly and they shut up. And Kurosaki Masaki said aloud at this time, "It's not because the two of them actually played in the kitchen, so I trained them," and gave them a stern look. And Ichigo said to Kurosaki Masaki, "Okay, Mom, it's nothing, I've cleaned up anyway, and they're just children." Hearing this, when Kurosaki Masaki wanted to refute something, Ichigo secretly gave her a hint, and Kurosaki Masaki stopped talking. And Ichigo said to the Kurosaki sisters, "Okay, this time you guys are really overdone, you can't be like this anymore, go back to your room." He clapped his hands to them and told them to go back to the room quickly. The Kurosaki sisters also understood what Ichigo was thinking and ran back to their room immediately. Chapter 213. Promise. After the Kurosaki sisters ran back to their room, Kurosaki Masaki said to Ichigo, "Why did you let them go like this? We must educate them while they are still young," he complained to Ichigo. This made Ichigo a little helpless, and then Ichigo said, "Mom, it's not like that, I just think it's okay to be so strict with them now, isn't it? They will still do what you don't let them do." After Kurosaki Masaki heard, "I think this is right," and after seeing this, Ichigo continued, "So, let them relax now. When they grow up, they will understand the truth of things, right?" After hearing Ichigo's words, Kurosaki Masaki also thinks it's right, 543, so she doesn't want to force them anymore, but she continues, "What if they don't understand?" Hearing this, Ichigo already knew that Kurosaki Masaki had let go, so he continued, if they don't understand, that's my responsibility. Then he assured Kurosaki Masaki. After hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki also nodded, and still believed in his own son Kurosaki Masaki, because Kurosaki Masaki was most proud of having such an excellent son, so he still believed in his own son's words, so Kurosaki Masaki said, then it's up to you. Yoruichi, on the other hand, has been watching Ichigo and Kurosaki Masaki by the side, watching their conversation without making a sound, like an outsider, watching them. And after calming Kurosaki Masaki, he looked at Yoruichi and said, why don't you come and tell me? He looked at Yoruichi with resentment. This made Yoruichi very helpless and said, don't look at me with such eyes, first of all. Hearing this, Ichigo stopped looking at Yoruichi like that. But I kept looking at Yoruichi with the eyes that you can't give me an answer, and Yoruichi continued. Of course I'm going to see your good show. Hearing this, Ichigo was stunned for a moment, and when he was about to show Yoruichi a good look after burning, Yoruichi said again, it's not because I don't know how to integrate into you, why am I watching like this? Hearing this, Ichigo also understood Yoruichi's situation, and seeing that Kurosaki Masaki and Kurosaki Ishin were still watching TV, Ichigo felt that something was wrong here, so he took Yoruichi back to the room. And Kurosaki Masaki saw Ichigo pulling Yoruichi up and asked Kurosaki Ishin, do you think Yoruichi can't integrate into our situation now? Yoruichi seemed to be getting along well with them after coming to this house, but there is still a sense of distance, so Kurosaki Masaki has always hoped to remove this feeling and let Yoruichi directly integrate into the family, but it still failed, so I hope to be successful in the future. Although Kurosaki Mizaki asked, but Kurosaki Ishin never responded, which made Kurosaki Mizaki puzzled, so she looked back at Kurosaki Ishin, which made Kurosaki Mizaki a little angry. She saw that Kurosaki Ishin kept her eyes on the TV. The above didn't hear Kurosaki Masaki's words at all, which made Kurosaki Masaki angry, so he walked over to Kurosaki Ishin and sat down. Advertisement and Kurosaki Ishin didn't notice Kurosaki Masaki's arrival at all, and kept watching TV intently, and Kurosaki Masaki leaned on Kurosaki Ishin to make Kurosaki Ishin come back to his senses and said, wife, don't do this while the children are still here. When he was about to let Kurosaki Masaki stop relying on him, seeing that Ichigo and the others were not there, they continued to say, wife, you should continue to rely on him. When he said that he wanted to hug Kurosaki Masaki directly pinched Kurosaki Ishin's waist. This pinching made Kurosaki Ishin very painful, and his tears were about to flow out, but Kurosaki Masaki still didn't let go. And Kurosaki Ishin asked her incomprehensibly, what's wrong with me? Wife, what did I say to you? Can you spare me? While speaking, Kurosaki Masaki begged for mercy with his hands. But Kurosaki Masaki didn't spare him, and continued to pinch him and said, who told you to ignore me? I'll tell you the business. You're still watching TV, aren't you? He said even harder. This made Kurosaki Ishin even more unbearable, and hurriedly begged for mercy. In the living room, some daily affairs between husband and wife are played, and in the Kurosaki sisters' room, whispers are whispered. The Kurosaki sisters started talking about going to Ichigo's room to sleep with Ichigo at night after returning to their room, but because they didn't know how to get Yoruichi to sleep in their room, they started talking about it. Kurosaki Yuzu said, what excuse should we use to ask Yoruichi-san to sleep in our room? Kurosaki shyly said, just tell Yoruichi-sama directly, she should understand, and we have such a good relationship with Yoruichi-sama, just act like a spoiled child. Hearing Kurosaki Shiarli's confident words, Kurosaki Yuzu believed Kurosaki Shiarli's words, so the two of them made up their minds and walked out of the room to Ichigo's room. At this time, 1.4 Ichigo just restored Yoruichi, taught Yoruichi some ways to integrate into the family, and said that the family does not need to be so restrained. But how much I heard in the end only depends on Yoruichi's performance in life in the future. At this time, there was a knock on the door of the room. Here Ichigo asks, come in, 35. After speaking, the door was opened, and Ichigo asked, what's the matter? Yuzu shyly. Yoruichi was also very confused when she saw Kurosaki sisters coming, but Kurosaki sisters didn't answer Ichigo's question at all, but said to Yoruichi, can you come out, Sister Yoruichi? We have something to ask. Chapter 214. Arrangements. Hearing this, Ichigo was very puzzled, and when he was about to say something, Yoruichi stopped him and said, I'll go out with them. He went out without waiting for Ichigo's reply. Seeing this, Ichigo didn't say anything, and the Kurosaki sisters were also very happy after seeing Yoruichi going out, and Kurosaki shyly made a face at Ichigo when the Kurosaki sisters went out, and then ran out. Seeing Kurosaki Shiarli's actions made Ichigo laugh, but after they all went out, Ichigo also lay on the bed and meditated quietly. This habit is also what Ichigo has always liked, because when Ichigo was bored as an otaku in his previous life, he liked to lie in bed and meditate on these things. In this life, Ichigo's habit can be changed. After Yoruichi came out, she looked at the Kurosaki sisters suspiciously and said, is there anything I have to say here? Because why do I have to hide from Ichigo and say 26? This is Yoruichi's doubts. And Kurosaki shyly pulled Yoruichi directly and said, Sister Yoruichi, come to our room and talk about it. Then he pulled Yoruichi away. And Kurosaki Yuzu also grabbed Yoruichi's other hand and said, let's go together. He even acted coquettishly at Yoruichi. Yoruichi laughed when he saw the behavior of the two of them, because he didn't know how to reject them, so he said helplessly. Okay, got it, I'll go. Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters became happy, and immediately brought Yoruichi to their room, locked the door, and looked at Yoruichi. Yoruichi was puzzled when he saw their movements, but immediately asked, "What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" And Kurosaki shyly sat directly next to Yoruichi and hugged Yoruichi's hand and said, "Sister Yoruichi, we want to discuss something with you." Kurosaki Yuzu also kept nodding beside him. Advertisement. Hearing this, Yoruichi was very puzzled and asked, "What's the matter?" While Kurosaki Yuzu was hesitant to speak, Kurosaki shyly said directly, "Sister Yoruichi, we want to sleep with Ichigo-san for one night." Hearing this, Yoruichi was stunned, because this sentence is very ambiguous. Then he looked at the Kurosaki sisters in amazement. This look made the Kurosaki sisters very strange, but Kurosaki shyly immediately knew that there was something wrong with her words, so she quickly explained. "Yoruichi-sama, that's not what you mean, it's just that we haven't gotten along with Ichigo-san for a long time, so I just want to get along with Ichigo-san, let's be intimate." Kurosaki Yuzu kept nodding his head, which made Kurosaki shyly very unhappy, and looked at her with dissatisfied eyes, which also made Kurosaki Yuzu panic. But how can they both be sisters? So Kurosaki shyly spared Kurosaki Yuzu. And Yoruichi was also very surprised when he heard this. Although Yoruichi knew that the Kurosaki sisters and Ichigo had a good relationship, but he didn't know it was so good, which made Yoruichi look at them suspiciously, because in the previous life I think their relationship with Ichigo is more than a sibling relationship, and what they said this time made Yoruichi even more suspicious. But Yoruichi didn't say anything, but he was on guard in his heart, and Yoruichi said, "Really? Yes." Originally, they were already determined to be rejected. Who would have thought that hearing Yoruichi's agreement would be like seeing a miracle, and looked at Yoruichi in amazement. Seeing their surprised expressions made Yoruichi very funny, and Yoruichi said, "Don't you want to?" He looked at them jokingly. Of course, they didn't see the joke in Yoruichi's eyes at all, but said nervously, No, we really want to," they both said in unison. But after Kurosaki shyly knew that it was Yoruichi who was making fun of them, so Kurosaki shyly said coquettishly, "Sister Yoruichi." But Kurosaki Yuzu didn't understand Yoruichi's intention at all, didn't say anything. Advertisement. When Yoruichi heard Kurosaki shyly's coquettish words and Kurosaki Yuzu's dazed look, he thought, there is still a big gap between sisters. And Yoruichi said, "Okay, you two are going to sleep in Ichigo at night, so it's okay for you two to stay in my room for one night?" Ichigo was lying on the bed meditating, and when he heard the sound of the door being opened, he thought Yoruichi was back, but when he opened his eyes and saw the Kurosaki sisters, they asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" Yuzu shyly. Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters nodded cleanly and said, "Of course you can." Kurosaki Yuzu also said to Ichigo, "It's the arrangement for tonight." And Yoruichi continued, "You two are going to sleep in Ichigo's room at night, so why don't you tell Ichigo? It's up to you to solve this matter." After saying that, he pulled out Sister Kurosaki 547, came to the door of Ichigo's room and pushed them in. The Kurosaki sisters froze immediately after entering Ichigo's room, not knowing what to do. Hearing this, Ichigo was puzzled. He didn't have any plans for tonight, so he continued to ask, "What's the matter? What's the plan?" And Kurosaki shyly told Ichigo what happened just now, and Ichigo said to them very seriously after hearing it, "You also know that you are no longer children, so how can you sleep with me?" And Ichigo also got up and sat on the bed and looked at them, and the Kurosaki sisters immediately recovered after hearing that. Kurosaki shyly said, "I just want to say something to Ichigo, brother." Yoruichi laughed outside and went back to the Kurosaki sisters' room. Chapter 215. Convince Ichigo. And the Kurosaki sisters also knew that this kind of request was very bad after hearing Ichigo's words. If the Kurosaki sisters wanted to sleep with Ichigo when they were children, they would definitely not refuse, but now the Kurosaki sisters and the others have grown up, so Ichigo won't be sleeping with them like before. The Kurosaki sisters got upset after Ichigo's words, and when Ichigo saw the scene, he changed the subject and said, "Hey, where did Yoruichi go?" Hearing this, Kurosaki shyly lifted his spirits, and I don't know what a good solution he came up with. And Kurosaki shyly said to Ichigo, "Sister Yoruichi has promised us to let us live here, right, Yuzu?" and made a face at Ichigo. Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu also recovered his energy and said to Ichigo, "Yes. Yoruichi-san also let us stay here, and she went to our room to stay." Hearing this, Ichigo was a little overwhelmed, because he didn't quite understand what Yoruichi was going to do. Didn't this embarrass Ichigo? Of course Ichigo said to the two of them after hearing this, "Is this true? Did Yoruichi really let you guys sleep here?" Ichigo wanted the Kurosaki sisters and the others to shake their heads, but things didn't always go as expected, and the Kurosaki sisters nodded. Ichigo didn't know what to do, so he said to them, "You can't lie to me." And Kurosaki shyly said directly, "Of course it's true, the two of us won't lie," and Kurosaki Yuzu nodded firmly beside him. This scene made Ichigo understand that this was true, so he started to worry and didn't know what to do. At this time, the Kurosaki sisters came to sit next to Ichigo together, hugged Ichigo's two arms and swayed coquettishly and said, "Brother Ichigo, please let us sleep here for one night." "That's it. Sleep for one night, that's it, we'll be good, brother. They talked a lot, which made Ichigo's heart soften, so Ichigo said to them, okay, okay. After that, the two of them stopped arguing, but looked at Ichigo obediently, which made Ichigo very helpless. Why is my younger sister like this? Aren't the younger sisters in the anime of the past life very well behaved? And Ichigo continued. Okay, I'll let you live here, but... Advertisement. Before they could finish speaking, the two of them cheered, and Ichigo coughed, and they quieted down, and Ichigo continued. But you have to listen to me, okay? Otherwise, you can't live here. After he finished speaking, he looked at them sternly. The two of them nodded quickly after hearing it, not sure if they understood it, but Ichigo continued. The first point is that the two of you sleep on the bed, and I will make the floor. After speaking, the two of them objected and said, this can't be done. But Ichigo directly refused and said, the objection is invalid. When they have something to say, Ichigo continued. Go back to sleep without listening to me. Hearing this, they all fell silent, and Ichigo continued. Second point, don't stay up late when you go to bed at night, go to bed earlier. Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters nodded positively. Seeing this scene, Ichigo felt that his decision was wrong, but he had already said it and couldn't take it back, so he continued. That's all for now, let's talk about the rest later, still sitting here. Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu was going to say stay here, but Kurosaki shyly said first, let's go back and change our pajamas and come back. He pulled Kurosaki Yuzu out of Ichigo's room. Ichigo nodded when he saw it, and after they all went out, he lay helplessly on the bed. I wondered what Yoruichi was thinking, how could he agree to such a thing? Although Ichigo is very strange now, and I want to ask Yoruichi's thoughts now, but I gave up thinking that the Kurosaki sisters are also there. While Ichigo was lying in bed thinking about things, the Kurosaki sisters and the others had already returned to the room and started picking up their pajamas. After coming out of Ichigo's room, Kurosaki Yuzu asked Kurosaki shyly suspiciously, why come out? Advertisement. And Kurosaki shyly explained to Kurosaki Yuzu. I came out because we have to prepare, and Ichigo is just to accept the fact. Kurosaki Yuzu then asked, what facts? And Kurosaki shyly continued. It's just for Ichigo-san to get used to it, otherwise Ichigo-san won't be able to accept it. Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu nodded in understanding. Yoruichi knows that this is probably what Ichigo said about the relationship between the family members. And Kurosaki shyly asked, Sister Yoruichi, why did you agree to this request for the two of us? Then they both came to their room, and Yoruichi saw them coming back and asked, what's wrong? And Yoruichi felt a very strange emotion in his heart after being thanked by Kurosaki shyly, but Yoruichi didn't feel that this emotion was bad at all, but felt that this emotion made Yoruichi very happy. And Yoruichi continued, then hurry up and prepare. Hearing this, Yoruichi said cheerfully, of course it's because we are a family, 55. Hearing this, Kurosaki shyly was very moved, but after hearing Kurosaki Yuzu's call, he thanked Yoruichi and turned around to go to Kurosaki Yuzu. And Kurosaki shyly directly told Yoruichi what happened just now, and Yoruichi laughed when he heard it and said, it really is what Ichigo did. After Yoruichi finished talking Kurosaki, Lima Jiao, Yuzu went straight to change his pajamas, and Kurosaki shyly didn't go, but looked at Yoruichi. This made Yoruichi very puzzled and asked, what's wrong? Shyly. Chapter 216. Sisters 1. And after the Kurosaki sisters finished changing their clothes, they went to Ichigo's room, and when they came out of their room, they said to Yoruichi, Yoruichi-san, let's go. When Yoruichi heard it, he nodded and said, okay, I got it, let's go. He waved at them and told them to leave soon. After hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters also went out. Yoruichi was stunned after they came out, because she felt so bored now and didn't know what to do. Yoruichi thought about it and decided to look at his attributes, and then went to the copy to play. Name: Shihouin Yoruichi, Hōgyoku, gender: female. Age: 143. Spouse: Kurosaki Ichigo, soul, potential: unlimited. Ryatsu: Super Captain, level 25 and 54,689 555,700,000. Zanpakuto: Night Fist, final solution, physique: Dark Knight. Profound body, ordinary level, can break through, physical: mortal, spirit, king, emperor, immortal, god, sage, Dao. Kido: King Shunpo, King class. White hits, King class. Slash: King class. Combat experience, King class. Instant open, King rank. Advertisement. Thor battle body, King class. Hollow, King. Backpack: Character fragments times 54,689, intermediate experience beads times 20,000, advanced experience beads times 19,000, super experience beads times 18,000, breakthrough card times 600. After seeing his attributes, Yoruichi felt that he was too powerful, because as long as he had such attributes, who would be his opponents? Of course, the Spirit King and Ichigo were excluded. It was only in this world. And Yoruichi couldn't be bored anymore, so he went into the dungeon to play, and then decided to go straight out to sleep when he was tired. And Ichigo in his room also noticed that Yoruichi had entered the copy, but Ichigo did not go in, but waited in his room for the Kurosaki sisters and the others to come here. Because Yoruichi entered the dungeon, Ichigo thought it should be the Kurosaki sisters and the others who came out, and Yoruichi got bored and entered the dungeon. If Yoruichi knew what Ichigo was thinking, he would have liked it, because what Ichigo thought was no different from what Yoruichi was doing. And Yoruichi came out a second later, and Ichigo looked at his attributes and character fragments, which surprised Ichigo. Name: Kurosaki Ichigo, Hōgyoku, S*X. Male age: 15. Spouse: Shihouin Yoruichi, Soul, Potential, Unlimited. Ryotsu: Spirit King, level 26 and 268,721 500,000. Zanpakuto: The Perfect Zangetsu, Final Solution. Physique: Tien Shuan Battle Physique, Ordinary Level, can break through. Physical: Mortal, Spirit, King, Emperor, Immortal, God, Sage, Tao. Kido: King Shunpo, King Class White Hits, King Class. Advertisement / King Class Combat Experience, King Class. CGBE: Ya Tianshang, King Class Crack Sky Flash, King Class. Moonless: King Class Hollow, King Backpack. Character Fragments X268721, Intermediate Experience Beads X20000, Advanced Experience Beads X19000, Super Experience Beads X18000, Breakthrough Cards X600. Ichigo was surprised because Yoruichi had done so many dungeons. Ichigo couldn't be surprised because half of the pieces to be upgraded had already been knocked out. Then Ichigo was very distressed for Yoruichi, so he said to Yoruichi's spiritual voice, Yoruichi, Yoruichi. Ichigo sent a voice in his heart several times, but Yoruichi didn't respond, which made Ichigo a little strange, so just before the Kurosaki sisters came to Ichigo's room, they used a fast speed, and they came to the Kurosaki sisters at a speed they didn't even notice, inside the room. Seeing Yoruichi sleeping deeply on the Kurosaki sisters' bed, I knew that Yoruichi must have consumed a lot of energy, so Ichigo kissed Yoruichi's forehead, then put the quilt on Yoruichi and came out. And Kurosaki Yuzu nodded in understanding, and seeing the fight between the two of them, Ichigo just ignores it as if he were an outsider. Hearing this, Kurosaki Shirley was very surprised, and then said, Yuzu, you traitor, and rushed towards her, but after being avoided by Kurosaki Yuzu immediately ran behind Ichigo. Then he quickly returned to his room, and just after Ichigo came back, Kurosaki sisters pushed the door and entered. Seeing Kurosaki Shirley's rude look, he said helplessly, Really, why don't you knock on the door? And Kurosaki Shirley said very rudely, What are you knocking, are they all family anyway? Then he said to Kurosaki Yuzu, Isn't it right, Yuzu? And Kurosaki Yuzu said quietly, I think it's better to knock on the door. He didn't know what to think after saying that Kurosaki Shirley said. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki Shirley said, What do you think I can do with you? He raised his eyebrows at Kurosaki Yuzu. But things don't always go as planned. Chapter 217, Sisters 2. So the Kurosaki sisters and the others led their battles to Ichigo, which made Ichigo very helpless, but Ichigo also had nothing to do with them. Kurosaki Shirley ran up to Ichigo and asked Ichigo, Why don't you stop us? Just as Ichigo was about to answer, Kurosaki Yuzu came over and said, Do you not love us anymore? Hearing this, Ichigo wanted to say something. Kurosaki Shirley replied, It must be like this. And Kurosaki Yuzu followed suit. It must be like this, otherwise how could it be, like this? And Ichigo was very at a loss, because they said that Ichigo didn't have time to explain things, and Ichigo was very embarrassed. And when they both finished and looked at me the whole time, I said, Okay, that's it. And both of them nodded, and Ichigo continued. Okay, I'm going to take a shower. After saying that, he went straight into the bathroom without caring about their expressions. The two people who stayed outside looked at each other. Their eyes were full of astonishment, because their plan was not like this, but there was nothing they could do, so they had to lie on the bed and stare at the ceiling in a daze. And Ichigo wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, It's scary, I don't even know what happened to them. Then he took off his clothes, put the water in, and took a bath in the bathtub. I hope that in this way, all my troubles can be eliminated. And Kurosaki Shirley outside said to Kurosaki Yuzu, Yuzu, what do you think happened to Ichigo-san? Kurosaki Yuzu said, Probably our actions made my brother uncomfortable. Hearing this, Kurosaki Shirley felt right, so he said, Yuzu, you are so right, so let's go with this. He said something into Kurosaki Yuzu's ear. Soon Ichigo came out, because he thought it was bad to keep the Kurosaki sisters and the others hanging out, so he came out after a while. After coming out, I saw the Kurosaki sisters laying the floor, and the two of them laid the floor for each and lay down. When Ichigo saw it, he said, Isn't it letting you sleep on the bed? Why are the floors covered? Advertisement and Kurosaki Shirley said it as a matter of course. Even Ichigo-san also plays the floor, isn't it bad that we don't play? Kurosaki Yuzu also said, That's right, brother, so let's sleep on the floor together, and winked at Ichigo. This scene made Ichigo laugh and cry, but Ichigo continued. You guys should go to bed. You shouldn't be able to sleep on the floor. And Kurosaki Yuzu said directly, Brother, if we can sleep, we must do it. Hearing Kurosaki Shirley here made a subtle good gesture to Kurosaki Yuzu. Of course Ichigo saw it too, but Ichigo didn't say anything, but when he continued to say something, Kurosaki Shirley hurriedly said, "Ichigo brother, it's alright, it's useless for you to say anything now, we must sleep with you." As he spoke, he showed a very firm look, and Kurosaki Yuzu also looked at Ichigo firmly. Ichigo was speechless after seeing it, because Ichigo thought they were perfect because they had such eyes leaped out to sleep. Kurosaki Shirley felt that it was not the same thing to always be compliant, so he decided to speak their hearts out to Ichigo directly, which is why Kurosaki Shirley said this just now. And when Ichigo saw this, he knew he couldn't refuse them, so he said, "Okay, let's sleep together." Hearing this, they both cheered. "Yeah," and Ichigo continued, "But, you can't play, you need to go to bed earlier, you know." Hearing this, they also promised. Seeing this, Ichigo also feels so tired, my heart is so tired. So Ichigo was lying on his floor, and Ichigo's floor was right in the middle of the Kurosaki sisters' floor, so the two of them came to Ichigo's side after seeing Ichigo lying down. When Ichigo saw two people sitting next to him, he said, "By the way, what time is it?" And Kurosaki shyly looked at his watch and said, "It's almost 8:30." Hearing this, Ichigo made an "oh" sound, and Kurosaki Yuzu then said to Ichigo, "Brother, I think you seem to be alienating us now. If it was before, we were very close, right?" Kurosaki shyly also hummed. And Ichigo got up and looked at them both, then stroked their heads and said, "Of course there is a distance, because we are all grown up now, and there are differences between men and women, so we can't be so close, or how will you get married in the future?" Advertisement katakana middle dot flowers katakana middle dot. Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu said directly, "Brother, we don't want to get married, we have to stay at home and be with mom and dad, brother and Yoruichi sister." Hearing this, Ichigo didn't get angry, but said gently, "Okay, you will understand these things when you grow up." Then he flicked their foreheads. They were both happy to hold the spot where Ichigo was playing, and Ichigo felt that it was a little early to go to bed now, so he decided to watch TV for a while. Then turn on the TV and let the Kurosaki sisters choose their favorite TV programs to watch. Seeing that they like to watch shows also makes Ichigo speechless, because they are also watching those love shows, which makes Ichigo think that children nowadays are born so early. And when it was almost 10 o'clock, Ichigo turned off the TV. And Kurosaki shyly complained directly to Ichigo, "Ichigo brother, what are you doing? It's the most important moment." Kurosaki Yuzu also said, "That's right, I want to continue watching this part." Ichigo said, "Okay, let's put you to sleep, but you have to be obedient." After saying that, he got up and turned off the light and lay down. The Kurosaki sisters in this room slept well that night, because the aura emanating from Ichigo's physique made them very comfortable, so they slept well. And Ichigo didn't care what they said, "It's 10 o'clock, go to bed early." And the Kurosaki sisters also said, "Yeah." Hearing this, Ichigo wanted to refute, but he thought that if he refused them now, they would definitely come up with something else, so he let them hug and sleep. And the two of them said together, "I have to hold it before I can fall asleep." The Kurosaki sisters were also very dissatisfied, but they felt that they could replay it anyway, so they were relieved. After Ichigo lay down, the two of them came to Ichigo's side and hugged one of Ichigo's arms, which made Ichigo helplessly say, "What's the matter?" Chapter 218. Sisters 3. The next day came soon. The bright sunlight from the sky shone into Ichigo's room and shone on Ichigo's face. And Ichigo opened his eyes sleepily, looking at the dazzling sunlight. Ichigo knew that it was already bright. When he was about to get up, he felt that his body was very heavy, which made Ichigo subconsciously look at himself. After seeing it, Ichigo was helpless, because the Kurosaki sisters fell asleep on Ichigo's body, which made Ichigo very funny. The most important thing is that they are all drooling, which makes Ichigo speechless, because they are already such a big person, so drooling, which makes Ichigo very funny. I was going to call them 5 or 6, but Ichigo didn't wake them up and let them continue to fall asleep on top of him. On the other side, Yoruichi also got up, and when he got up, he didn't know that he was there until he saw that it was not Ichigo's room, so he got up and started to clean up. Because it wasn't Ichigo's room, Yoruichi was still a little cautious, but when he thought that the Kurosaki sisters and the others were still in Ichigo's room, they thought they should not have woken up yet, and looked up at the clock. It was only after 6 o'clock, so Yoruichi decided to continue in Ichigo's room. Lazy bed here. And in Ichigo's room, Ichigo is very embarrassed, because after all, he is a healthy man, so he has some reactions in the morning, isn't he? So I knocked on them. Fortunately, they didn't find out, so Ichigo quickly suppressed his reaction with his own will, and then lay down at ease. But when Ichigo was lying down, feeling the temperature of the Kurosaki sisters and the others, they unknowingly fell into the memory. They used to be very sticky to Ichigo, and Ichigo did not object to their stickiness, and was very happy. Advertisement, but it's not right to continue that kind of life now that I've grown up, so Ichigo started to distance from them. I hope I can use this distance to make them less sticky to myself, but who would have thought it would be counterproductive? So this also made Ichigo understand that this method is useless, so I decided not to alienate them like this in the future, but to be such close brothers and sisters. After thinking about it, Ichigo's eyes returned to their original state, and he hugged them. And the time passed little by little, and soon it was more than 7 o'clock. At this time, the Kurosaki sisters and the others also woke up naturally. Feeling this very warm and familiar embrace when they woke up made them feel like a dream. They were very happy when they opened their eyes and saw that the person holding them was the one they had always hoped for, and they also felt that Ichigo looked at them the same way as before, although they didn't know how, but they were still very happy. After seeing them wake up, Ichigo said to them very gently, "Wake up?" After hearing this, they all nodded. Ichigo continued, "Then look at what you've done," and pointed to their chins. And they looked there suspiciously, and when they saw it, they all blushed and buried their faces in the quilt, very shy. When Ichigo saw it, he smiled and said, okay, don't be a tortoise. Since it's all like this, then don't be shy. Anyway, there is no class to be shy, and it's the same as it is now when I was a child, isn't it?" And Kurosaki shyly said in the quilt, "It was all childhood things, and now we are all grown up, so of course we will be shy about such things." Kurosaki Yuzu also said, "Yes, our girl's face is very thin, and my brother doesn't know how to let us go." Advertisement. Hearing this, Ichigo was stunned, because it was like Ichigo bullied them, so Ichigo said, "Did I bully you?" Kurosaki Yuzu said directly, "Yes, you are bullying us." And Ichigo said to them, Hey, please, it's all your fault, I just told your fault, is this also wrong?" Kurosaki shyly followed suit, "It's Ichigo-san's fault." Kurosaki Yuzu followed suit, "It's all my brother's fault." Hearing this, Ichigo had no choice but to surrender and said, "Okay, it's all my fault, then the two princesses are my fault, so can you be the knight who made a mistake?" At this time, Kurosaki shyly leaked his head and said, "Then it depends on the performance of the knights." Then he patted Kurosaki Yuzu and let her come out. And Kurosaki Yuzu looked at Ichigo and said, "A knight has to look like a knight." Hearing this, Ichigo had to stand up and do a knightly salute to them, because when they were shy, they had already returned to their own bunks to hide, so Ichigo got up smoothly and did a knightly salute. And Ichigo got up and put his right fist on his left chest, squatted with his knees, and stepped back half a step with the other foot, keeping his body upright and bowing slightly. Seeing Ichigo's perfect knighthood fascinated the Kurosaki sisters and the others. Although Ichigo is wearing pajamas now, the temperament is there, so it's perfect. But it would be more perfect if wearing a knight's dress. And Kurosaki shyly joked to Ichigo, "Then knight, get up, I have seen your loyalty." While Kurosaki Yuzu watched Ichigo and Kurosaki shyly play, 10 minutes passed quickly. This is also the time for Kurosaki Isshin and the others to get up. Chapter 219. Sisters 4 and they got up while Ichigo and Kurosaki sisters were fighting, and Yoruichi got up too. When Ichigo and the others came out of the room, Yoruichi also came out of the room, so they met each other, and Ichigo didn't know what to say to Yoruichi, and the Kurosaki sisters saw Ichigo's embarrassment, so they came to Yoruichi first next to her, she didn't know what to say to her. But the Kurosaki sisters went down immediately after speaking, leaving Yoruichi there to look at Ichigo with a half smile, which made Ichigo even more helpless. And Ichigo felt that it was not a problem to work like this, so he came to Yoruichi's side, picked her up and said, "Do you want me to compensate you?" Hearing this, Yoruichi was also stunned, and asked suspiciously, "What?" And when Ichigo directly hugged Yoruichi with the princess and was about to go back to the room, Yoruichi understood, so she hurriedly struggled and said, "No, it's morning. And where are my parents still down there?" Hearing this, Ichigo was relieved, so he took the direction to go and walk downstairs. There are only Kurosaki sisters and the others downstairs, while Kurosaki Isshin and Kurosaki Masaki come to the yard to sit and do morning exercises. This is their habit. They do morning exercises for a while every morning when they get up. So Ichigo and the others also know that Ichigo is such a princess. Yoruichi came down, even though there was nothing in front of them, but don't get too close in front of them. Seeing Ichigo holding Yoruichi down, the Kurosaki sisters and the others were very envious, and Ichigo also noticed this look and smiled. When Yoruichi saw the Kurosaki sisters, he said to Ichigo, "It's embarrassing for me to not let me down." He also slapped Ichigo in the chest. And Ichigo smiled when he saw it, and put Yoruichi down. Then he looked at them and said, "Would you like to come and let my brother hug you?" Then he opened his arms. The Kurosaki sisters looked at each other and didn't know what to do after seeing it, and then looked at Yoruichi. Advertisement. When Yoruichi saw them looking at him, he said to them, "See what I do, hug me if you want, I'm not so stingy." Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters cheered, then ran to Yoruichi's side and hugged Yoruichi and said, "I love you the most, Yoruichi-sama," and kissed Yoruichi's cheek. This made Ichigo very dissatisfied and said, "Hey, it's me who is holding you, how can I thank Yoruichi?" Hearing this, sisters Yoruichi and Kurosaki laughed, and Yoruichi walked directly to Ichigo's side and held Ichigo's face and said, "Okay, let me thank you." 35 After that, I kissed Ichigo. After being kissed, Ichigo said arrogantly, "Then I will accept it," but the happiness on his face could not be concealed. Yoruichi smiled even more when he saw it, but Yoruichi didn't laugh, because Ichigo was not happy when he laughed, but he knew in his heart that this character of Ichigo was also some of the reasons why Yoruichi fell in love with Ichigo. And Ichigo looked at the Kurosaki sisters happily after receiving the reward and said, "Okay, come here, I'll let you experience the princess's enjoyment." Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters are also very shy, but they also want to try it, because this man is their favorite brother, so they will not refuse to be intimate with him. After Ichigo finished speaking, the two of them came to Ichigo's side, watching Ichigo waiting for Ichigo to arrange. And Ichigo looked at them and said, "So which one of you is first?" He looked at them both. The Kurosaki sisters took a look. Kurosaki shyly said, "Let Yuzu come first." After Kurosaki Yuzu had something to say, Kurosaki shyly continued. "Don't be in a hurry to refuse, it's better for you to come first. How can I say also my sister?" Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu didn't refuse, so he turned to Ichigo and said, "Let me go first, brother," and then opened his arms. Advertisement and Ichigo smiled when he saw this scene, and then bent down and hugged Kurosaki Yuzu with the princess hug. And Kurosaki Yuzu felt the warm embrace after being picked up by Ichigo. Kurosaki Yuzu was very fascinated, so he said to Ichigo, "I don't want to be separated from you, brother." Hearing this, Ichigo also smiled and said softly to Kurosaki Yuzu, "We will never be separated." After that, he kissed Kurosaki Yuzu's forehead. Kurosaki Yuzu blushed after being kissed by Ichigo and buried his face in Ichigo's arms. And after staying in Ichigo's arms for a minute or two, Ichigo asked Kurosaki Yuzu, "Do you want to stay in your brother's arms?" Hearing this, when Kurosaki Yuzu was about to say, "Yes," she didn't say it because she felt that she was still too shy, and there were Yoruichi and Kurosaki shyly next to her, so she said, "No need," and shyly is not what, 35. And Ichigo didn't ask any more after hearing it. Although he knew that Kurosaki Yuzu definitely didn't speak his mind, Ichigo decided not to push Kurosaki Yuzu too much, so he put Kurosaki Yuzu down and faced Kurosaki Yuzu's forehead again. Kissed. And Kurosaki Yuzu, who was kissed, walked over to Yoruichi's side happily, hugged Yoruichi's arm and did it. Kurosaki shyly walked to Ichigo's side and opened his arms directly, and Ichigo hugged Kurosaki shyly very naturally after seeing it, and then kissed Kurosaki shyly's forehead. Although Kurosaki shyly usually looks very boyish, she is also a girl, isn't she, so she blushed. And Kurosaki shyly also said to Ichigo, "Is it okay to do this to us in the future, Ichigo brother?" Ichigo nodded without thinking, and Kurosaki shyly was very happy to see this, but soon Ichigo put Kurosaki shyly down, kissed her on the forehead like Kurosaki Yuzu, and let them sit with Yoruichi, while thinking about the kitchen and walking away. Chapter 220. Sisters 5. While watching Ichigo walk into the kitchen, the Kurosaki sisters and the others stared blankly at Ichigo, and Yoruichi followed along with Ichigo. It was only after Ichigo and Yoruichi entered the kitchen that they came back to their senses, and Kurosaki shyly asked Kurosaki Yuzu, "Is this true?" and touched his forehead. Kurosaki Yuzu also touched his forehead in surprise and said, "This is not a dream, it's real," and jumped up after saying that. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki shyly also wanted to jump up to celebrate, but he couldn't resist jumping up, and then said to Kurosaki Yuzu, "Okay, stop making trouble, and jump up like a child." 35. Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu was no longer dancing, but her red cheeks still showed that she was very happy. And Kurosaki shyly is also very happy, and his eyes are full of joy. When the Kurosaki sisters were happy, Kurosaki Ishin and the others also came in. Seeing that the Kurosaki sisters were very happy, Kurosaki Mizaki asked suspiciously, "Why are you so happy? Tell us about something," and Kurosaki Ishin is also very happy, looked at them curiously. But the Kurosaki sisters stopped their happy mood when they heard Kurosaki Misaki's voice. Kurosaki shyly said as usual, "There is nothing to be happy about, it's just that the two of us thought of a joke, so we laughed." Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu also followed up, Yeah, it's just a joke, it's funny, shyly, we both got stabbed in the hole by this joke." And Kurosaki Masaki continued, "So what kind of joke? Tell us about it, let's have fun too." Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters were stunned, because they didn't expect Kurosaki Masaki to say this, which embarrassed them both. Advertisement seeing this scene made Kurosaki Masaki even more puzzled. Just as he was about to ask further questions, Yoruichi came out of the kitchen and said, "Mom, Ichigo called you." Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters looked at Yoruichi gratefully as if they had found a savior. Although Kurosaki Masaki wanted to continue asking something, he heard Ichigo calling him, so he walked towards the kitchen. After Kurosaki Masaki walked in, Yoruichi also followed, gave Kurosaki sisters an okay sign before entering, and then went in. The Kurosaki sisters were even more happy when they saw this gesture, but Kurosaki Ishin, who was on the side, didn't know the situation and continued to ask, "Yuzu shyly, what is the joke? Tell Dad." Hearing this, Kurosaki shyly said directly to Kurosaki Ishin, "You are such an old man, what a joke." After that, he pulled Kurosaki Yuzu away. And Kurosaki Ishin was very sad when he heard Kurosaki shyly's words, grabbed his heart and acted there and said, "Ah, my heart, it hurts so much," and there was a series of actions. But the Kurosaki sisters were there watching TV unmoved. And Kurosaki Ishin looked at the Kurosaki sisters suspiciously when he saw that he had been acting for so long without anyone coming. Who knew they were fascinated by watching TV? He didn't listen to Kurosaki Ishin at all, which made Kurosaki Ishin very injured. And Kurosaki Ichigo saw that they didn't pay attention and walked to the sofa in embarrassment to sit down and watch TV with them. And Ichigo inside heard what happened to Kurosaki sisters, and Kurosaki Masaki called Kurosaki Masaki in. This was the only way to get Kurosaki sisters to rescue, so let Yoruichi call Kurosaki Masaki in. And after Kurosaki Masaki came in, he looked at Ichigo and said, "What do you call me?" Ichigo, and looked at the dishes prepared by Ichigo and Yoruichi with great satisfaction. When Ichigo heard it, he turned to look at Kurosaki Masaki and said, "I want to say that Yuzu Shirley and the others are laughing there because of my business, so don't ask them questions, it's just about it." Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki was puzzled. Seeing her puzzled expression, Ichigo gave Yoruichi a wink, and Yoruichi also said to Kurosaki Masaki knowingly, "Mom, let's go there and talk." Then he pulled Kurosaki Masaki to the kitchen door and talked about what happened last night. Advertisement. After understanding the matter, Kurosaki Masaki said happily, "So it is, I understand now," and then looked at Ichigo with a different look, which made Ichigo very helpless. After I started and finished talking, I saw Ichigo and Yoruichi were busy there, so I joined in and started to prepare breakfast together. Thanks to Ichigo and their joint efforts, breakfast was ready soon, and then they all brought it to the table. The three people sitting on the sofa came directly to the table after smelling the fragrance and looked at the breakfast on the table happily, but Kurosaki Masaki said directly to them, "Go wash your hands." Hearing this, they all ran into the bathroom, and Ichigo and the others said after they brought out the meal, "Have you washed it?" Hearing this, they shouted, "King Lee's, it's coming soon." Hearing this, they all looked at each other and smiled. Kurosaki Masaki felt very happy. Soon a few of them came here, and after they were all seated, it was time to eat. While eating, Kurosaki Ichigo, Kurosaki Masaki, and Kurosaki sisters were so happy that they ate, so they said to Yoruichi, "How is it?" 35. Hearing this, Yoruichi said, "It's delicious," and smiled at Ichigo. And Ichigo nodded to Yoruichi's nose when he saw it. And Kurosaki they're used to, so they also eat. The meal was soon over, and since it was still a holiday, they stayed at home and played around, while Ichigo and Yoruichi went to the masked army after they finished eating. Chapter 221. Inoue Orihime's breakthrough in the base of the masked corps. They were all doing their own things leisurely. Even Arisawa Tatsuki and Inoue Orihime joined them and were bored there. And Hirako Shinji said to Arisawa Tatsuki, "Longui, don't you need to train again?" Hearing this, Arisawa Tatsuki said directly, "What are you training?" "Training. My strength is similar to yours now, and I have learned almost all the skills of fighting, so training is useless now, I should wait until I come later. Let him improve my strength." 99. Hearing this, Hirako Shinji felt right, and said, "Indeed, Ichigo's ability is really convenient, so simple can improve our strength. We should wait for Ichigo to come and let him improve our strength." Hearing this, Yadomaru Lisa said to Hirako Shinji and Arisawa Tatsuki, "You guys should be more active, otherwise Ichigo will come back and see you so lazy, maybe he won't improve your strength, but will arrange hell training for you, not sure." Atoribashi Rojiro also said firmly, "It is indeed possible, so don't hold on to the idea that Ichigo can always help you improve your strength." Hashijin said directly, "I don't think Ichigo should be like that. Although there may be some punishment for Shinji, their strength should still improve." Hearing this, Hirako Shinji was very happy and came to Hachigen's side and hugged his shoulders and said, "As expected, you still understand me and Ichigo." Fortunately Hashijin was sitting, otherwise Hirako Shinji wouldn't be able to hold his shoulders. And Muguruma Kensai looked at the magazine and said, "Okay, let's think about what to eat now. I haven't eaten breakfast yet, I'm very hungry now." 35. After Muguruma Kensai finished speaking, Kuna Mashiro's stomach rang, and then he came to Muguruma Kensai's side and complained to him. "Kenshi, I'm so hungry now, I want to eat," he said to Muguruma Kensai hammered. And Muguruma Kensai ignored Kuna Mashiro and said to Hirako Shinji, "Hey, Shinji, do we still have something to eat here?" Hearing this, CGBE, Hirako Shinji thought for a while and said, "No, I just finished eating yesterday." Sarugaki Hiyori said, "It's all bald people who eat those things." Hirako Shinji immediately retorted, "I just ate the rest of the cake, how could it be that I have finished eating it?" Advertisement. Then Sarugaki Hiyori quarreled with Hirako Shinji, and at this time Hashijin felt that someone had entered his barrier, and he knew that Ichigo and Yoruichi were coming, so when he was about to tell them, Ichigo and Yoruichi instantly appeared in front of them. Ichigo looked at them and said, "Are you all doing well? Especially Shinji you?" Hearing this, Hirako Shinji said strangely, "Why me?" And Ichigo said solemnly, "Seeing you and Hiyori arguing, I think you two are very happy, so I think you should be very happy." Hearing this, Hirako Shinji was speechless, and Sarugaki Hiyori asked Ichigo directly, "Ichigo, why are you here?" Hearing this, Ichigo said to her, "I just came to see you. Anyway, I gave you all the funds. You can do whatever you want." Hearing this, they were very helpless. Although they were happy that Ichigo was generous to them, they were also speechless when he said anything about it. And Ichigo looked at their strength and said, "Your strength is pretty good now, do you still want to improve your strength?" And Sarugaki Hiyori preemptively said, "Of course it is the best to improve the strength." The rest of the masked army also nodded. When Ichigo saw them nodding, it was like that, and at this time, Arisawa Tatsuki said, Ichigo, can you help Orihime improve his strength? He took Inoue Orihime's hand and came out. And Ichigo noticed Inoue Orihime when he first arrived, but didn't ask. But Arisawa Tatsuki asked, so Ichigo said, sure, but how did Inoue come? Hearing this, Arisawa Tatsuki explained it. It turned out that Inoue Orihime saw that Arisawa Tatsuki has been working hard to become stronger, so Inoue Orihime did not want to drag Arisawa Tatsuki back, so he came here to train with Arisawa Tatsuki. After hearing the reason, Ichigo said to her, I understand, let Inoue come first. Advertisement. Arisawa Tatsuki is very happy to hear this, although Inoue Orihime's current strength is good, but it will not be good in the next battle, so I hope Inoue Orihime's strength can be improved. Inoue Orihime was very happy to hear that Ichigo wanted to improve her strength, so she thanked Ichigo and said, thank you so much, Kurosaki-san. When Ichigo heard this, he waved his hand and said, it's nothing, we are all friends. Hearing this, Inoue Orihime also laughed, and Ichigo suddenly appeared in front of Inoue Orihime, and before Inoue Orihime reacted, he punched a light group at Inoue Orihime, and then a captain-level Ryotsu emerged from Inoue Orihime. Feeling this, Ryotsu Arisawa Tatsuki is very happy, and even the people of Kamen Corps are happy for Inoue Orihime. Then Ichigo checked the properties of Inoue Orihime. And Ichigo said to them after seeing the attributes of Inoue Orihime. Okay, let's improve Inoue's strength today, you all did it tomorrow. Dunshun Luha. LVMAX. After seeing this, Ichigo felt that Inoue Orihime had also worked hard, and even cultivated his own abilities to the top of his own, and it was not so easy to break the limit. Age. 15. Gender. Female. Potential, Super Captain. Spouse. None. Name. Inoue Orihime Ryotsu. Captain, level 11. Chapter 222. Inoue Orihime's misunderstanding. Hearing that everyone here was very dissatisfied, and Ichigo looked at them and said, if such an expression is leaking, then I will postpone it until the day after tomorrow. Hearing that everyone here also leaked happy expressions and said, how is it possible, we are very happy now. Yes. You can improve your strength tomorrow, I know, Ichigo must be tired, so I decided to improve only one person today. After hearing this, everyone thought that Ichigo must be tired, otherwise it would be impossible not to improve their strength, but what they thought was wrong. It's just that Ichigo wants to make a joke with them, but it's true that I don't want to improve their strength now. I feel that they are improving their strength now, and they need a lot of character fragments, so Ichigo doesn't want to help them improve their strength now. And after the masked troops finished speaking, they looked at Ichigo for no reason, not knowing what to do, and Ichigo saw that they were all looking at him and said, what are you looking at me for? Just do what you need to do. Ya, 35. After saying that, Ichigo took Yoruichi to the sofa and sat down. And after hearing Ichigo's words, they all went to do their own thing, while Yadomaru Lisa, Kuna Mashiro, and Muguruma Kensai went to the store to buy something, and the rest went to their own business. And Ichigo, who was secretly talking to Yoruichi on the sofa, suddenly felt the eyes behind him and turned to look. It turned out that Inoue Orihime had been looking at Ichigo, and she hurriedly lowered her head after Ichigo turned around. Ichigo shook his head helplessly after seeing it, and then said, what's the matter, Inoue? Everyone looked at Inoue Orihime when Ichigo asked, and Arisawa Tatsuki looked at Inoue Orihime suspiciously because she didn't know what she was going to say. And Inoue Orihime said to Ichigo, Kurosaki-san, I want to ask something, can I come here? After speaking, he looked at Ichigo nervously. When Ichigo saw this scene, he felt that he was going to make a trip, so he said to Yoruichi, wait for me for a while. Yoruichi also nodded to Ichigo. Advertisement. Then Inoue Orihime was very happy to see that Ichigo agreed, and then got up and stopped in a corner, and Ichigo stopped when she saw her stop. And Inoue Orihime took a deep breath and turned to Ichigo after walking to the corner and said, Kurosaki-san, did you abandon Longwei? He blushed after saying that. And Ichigo was stunned when he heard it, and everyone else was stunned. Because the people present are very powerful, all the voices in a room can be heard. Originally, they didn't want to hear it, but because they were inside the house, they accidentally heard it. When Ichigo was about to speak, Arisawa Tatsuki ran over with a blushing face and pulled Inoue Orihime away. And Inoue Orihime said to Arisawa Tatsuki, Longwei, don't pull me, I'm here for you. And Arisawa Tatsuki blushed even more and directly pulled Inoue Orihime out. Ichigo was left to watch, and when he recovered, Ichigo walked back to the sofa and sat next to Yoruichi again. And Hiriko Shinji and the others kept looking at Ichigo, which made Ichigo very helpless and said, don't look at me anymore, go do your own thing. After that, they stopped looking at Ichigo and started doing their own things. And Yoruichi kept looking at Ichigo, which made Ichigo very embarrassed, so Ichigo said, what's wrong? Keep looking at me. And Yoruichi said very directly, I just want to see why my lover is so feminine, I want to see if I can see the reason from the appearance. Ichigo said, what kind of lover? Don't say anything, dear. He kissed Yoruichi as he spoke. Yoruichi was a little embarrassed after being kissed in front of many people, so he stopped asking this question and sat up quietly beside Ichigo. Asterisk asterisk. Advertisement. And Hiriko Shinji gave Ichigo a "you cow" gesture after seeing it, and Ichigo also gave him a look after seeing it. And not long after Arisawa Tatsuki and the others came back, and at this time they both blushed when they saw Ichigo, which made Ichigo even more difficult to resist, so he said to them, "You too see me blushing." Hearing this, Inoue Orihime whispered to Ichigo, "I'm sorry, Kurosaki, I didn't know that you and Longwei were not boyfriend and girlfriend, but childhood sweethearts, I'm really sorry." Hearing this, Ichigo always let out a sigh of relief, and then said to Inoue Orihime, "Okay, don't say anything weird, just do your own thing." After hearing that, Inoue Orihime also nodded. Arisawa Tatsuki said to Ichigo, "I'm so sorry, Ichigo, I didn't expect Orihime to have such a misunderstanding." Ichigo looked at Arisawa Tatsuki and said, "It's nothing, anyway, in terms of our relationship, it's right for others to misunderstand like this." Arisawa Tatsuki also smiled at Ichigo and said, "Yes." After saying that, he walked towards Inoue Orihime. After the explanation of this matter, everyone quietly started their own business, and Ichigo and Yoruichi were also bored, so they also entered the dungeon to fight monsters during this period to relieve their boredom. Soon Yadomaru Lisa and the others came back, and they looked at Hiriko Shinji and said, "Okay, let's get some food." Then they put all the things they bought on the table. He turned to look at Ichigo and Yoruichi and said, "Ichigo Yoruichi, did you have breakfast?" And Ichigo said, "We both came after we ate, so let's eat." 55 feet. Hearing this, Yadomaru Lisa also nodded, took some things and went to a place to read while eating a magazine. And the others also took something to eat. Chapter 223, Preparation 1. And while they were eating, Hiriko Shinji asked Ichigo, "Ichigo, when do you want to settle Aizen?" After saying this, everyone turned to Ichigo, waiting for Ichigo's reply. And Ichigo smiled and said, "How much effort do you think it takes to kill 1 or 2 ants?" Hearing Ichigo's words, everyone shook their heads, and Ichigo smiled and said, "It depends on the performance of the ants. If it is wonderful, let him live longer. If it is not wonderful, then squeeze it to death. Anyway, it is not a lot of waste, strength." "I understand the income here," and Kuna Mashiro directly said, "Ichigo, I just want to see Aizen's performance. If the performance is good, let him live for a while, and if it is not good, kill him, that's what it means." Ichigo smiled and nodded at her words. And Kuna Mashiro was very happy, and seeing Kuna Mashiro happy, everyone also smiled. And here Ichigo said, "Come on, let's improve your strength, I think he should come to the world in a few days." Hearing this, everyone nodded solemnly, and then they all came to Ichigo's side, and Ichigo opened his hands at them, and let the latter smash the fragments into everyone's body, even Inoue Orihime's body. After the fragments were smashed into their bodies, a halo appeared on all of their bodies, and then Ichigo hugged Yoruichi and watched. Because this time they have improved a lot, so it will take longer for them to get out of the transformation and control this power. And when they were both rapidly improving their strength, Yoruichi said to Ichigo, "Is Aizen coming soon?" Ichigo said, "I think he should be almost ready now, and his strength should be almost improved, so he should be coming soon." After listening to Yoruichi's face, he said angrily, "Really? Then why don't you tell me?" Hearing this, Ichigo immediately explained, "I just think so, I'm not sure yet." Hearing this, Yoruichi's face softened a little, but he was still angry. This made Ichigo stumped and didn't know what to do, and Yoruichi laughed when he saw Ichigo being overwhelmed, and seeing Yoruichi laughing, Ichigo let out a sigh of relief and said, "Why are you laughing?" 35. Yoruichi listened, humph, and ignored Ichigo and watched TV instead. Although I don't know what's wrong, Ichigo is happy now that Yu is not so angry, so she hugs Yoruichi into his arms, although Yoruichi resists, but after a little struggle, she shrinks into Ichigo's, "In my arms." The rest of the masked corps have also been upgraded one after another, and Ichigo was surprised to feel their breath now. Because Ichigo gave them all the pieces equally, their strength is now super captain, except for Inoue Orihime, who is a captain. Advertisement: some people have also broken their due limits, such as Sarugaki Hiyori, Love Ikawa and several others have broken their own limits, so now their limits are also super captains. Without Ichigo's help, they will never be possibly raised. Then Ichigo saw the strength of all of them. Name: Hiriko Shinji. Zanpakuto. Reverse Whisk Ryatsu, Super Captain, 22. Name: Sarugaki Hiyori Zanpakuto, the Orochi Ryatsu, Super Captain, 20 level 1. Name: Yadomaru Lisa Zanpakuto, Iron Slurry Dragonfly. Ryatsu. Super Captain, 20 level 1, name: Hashijin. Zanpakuto. Nun Ryatsu, Super Captain, 20 level 1. Name: Muguruma Kensai Zanpakuto, Earth Shattering Wind. Ryatsu. Super Captain, 22, name: Love Ikawa. Zanpakuto. Tengu Maru Ryatsu, Super Captain, 20 level 1. Advertisement name: Kuna Mashiro Zanpakuto, Nun. Ryatsu. Super Captain, 20 level 1, name: Atoribashi Rojiro. Zanpakuto. Jinsha Luo Ryatsu, Super Captain, 20 level 1. Name: Arisawa Tatsuki Zanpakuto, Tinlei Ryatsu, Super Captain, 22. Name: Inoue Orihime Ability, Shield Shun Luha. Then Ichigo looked at them and said, "Okay, with your current strength, it can be said that there is no organization in the world that can defeat you, except for Team Zero. After Ichigo finished speaking, they all went to start Master's own newly raised power. Therefore, they are not sure that they can resist Team Zero. Of course they won't become enemies with Team Zero. They are all Shinigami, how is that possible? And Ichigo might become an enemy with Team Zero. And Ichigo continued. Okay, your strength has improved a bit now, so let's step up your practice, master your own strength. Then worry about the people who become the Masked Legion, because they are collectively super captain level people, so there are only a few people in this world who are on the same level as them. 1.4 Hearing this, everyone nodded their heads. Although their current strength is not far from that of Team Zero, on the super captain, every step is a big step, and there is a big gap. Ichigo was also very satisfied after seeing the strength of the people, but after that, he was a little worried. Ryotsu. Captain, Level 18, Chapter 224, Preparation 2. After they all went to training, Yoruichi held Ichigo's hand and asked him, then what are we going to do now? He looked at Ichigo curiously. And Ichigo nodded to Yoruichi's nose and said, we're going to Soul Society now. Yoruichi was stunned when he heard Ichigo's words, and he didn't quite understand why he went to Soul Society. Seeing Yoruichi's puzzled look, Ichigo explained, I went there to see how Soul Society's strength is now, has it improved? Hearing this, Yoruichi also understood what Ichigo meant, so he nodded and agreed with Ichigo's proposal. After Ichigo and Yoruichi reached an agreement, Ichigo said to Hiriko Shinji, Shinji, come here, and then waved to Hiriko Shinji. And Hiriko Shinji hurried over after seeing Ichigo beckoning, and when he ran to Ichigo's side, he said, what's the matter? Ichigo, and came to Ichigo's side. And Ichigo said after hearing Hiriko Shinji's words, it's nothing, I just want to tell you that we are leaving at 2:06. Hearing this, Hiriko Shinji said casually, oh, where are you going? What are you doing? And Ichigo said, we're going to Soul Society now, so we're friends anyway. After hearing Hiriko Shinji complained, what are they doing? I think with our current strength we can definitely kill Aizen and his men. Advertisement. Hearing Hiriko Shinji's words, Ichigo kept looking at him, which made Hiriko Shinji very embarrassed, so he said to Ichigo, otherwise we can't beat you. Finally, his voice became lower and lower. And seeing Ichigo laughed, and Hiriko Shinji was a little dissatisfied when he saw Ichigo's smile, but Ichigo continued. Okay, I also know that we can defeat Aizen and the others with our current strength. After saying that, Hiriko Shinji was also very happy, but immediately Ichigo he added, but let's get them here too, because this can make them understand our strength and shock them. After hearing this, Hiriko Shinji also understood, so Hiriko Shinji smiled and said, it's still the best arrangement Ichigo you arrange. Ichigo laughed when he heard it, and Yoruichi laughed when he saw Ichigo and Hiriko Shinji talking, so he said with a dark face. Okay, it's time to go now, 35. Hearing this, Ichigo also knew that he was a bit overwhelmed, so he said, yes, it's time to go now, Shinji, go back and train your soaring strength. If you don't have a good control of your strength, then you say play not at the level that he should have. After hearing this, Hiriko Shinji also nodded and went back to practice. And Ichigo hugged Yoruichi and said, why are you angry? He kissed Yoruichi's forehead. Yoruichi gave Ichigo a blank look and said, it's not that you two look disgusting just now, and even you made me very dissatisfied, so I just said that, what's the matter? Hearing this, Ichigo was speechless, so he said, did your appearance really make you angry? Yoruichi didn't even look at Ichigo and said, no way. When Ichigo heard this, he said, then I won't be like this in the future, just do what you want me to do, 39. Hearing this, Yoruichi also laughed and looked at Ichigo and said, I hope to see a real Ichigo. Advertisement. Hearing this, Ichigo also understands, Yoruichi is to make Ichigo back to his original state, and there is no need to become another person for Yoruichi. Hearing this, Ichigo was very moved, so he quickly concealed his expression and personality. Now Ichigo looks like a lazy and cold person, and Ichigo's eyes are calm like a pool of stagnant water. But if anyone despised Ichigo because of this, that person would be out of luck. Because Ichigo is very calm now, but in this calm, there is the power to destroy the world. Yoruichi became happy after seeing Ichigo's appearance, and jumped directly into Ichigo's arms and said, Ichigo like this is the best. Then he kissed Ichigo. And Ichigo also looked at Yoruichi with doting eyes, and Yoruichi also saw the light in Ichigo's eyes, so he was very happy to coquettish Ichigo. Of course, no one else saw this scene, because Ichigo blocked Ichigo and Yoruichi with their strength, although they knew that Ichigo and Yoruichi were there, but they didn't notice what they did, which is when they became stronger the benefits. And Ichigo said coldly to Yoruichi, okay, now we're going to Soul Society, but there was this kind of tenderness in the cold voice. Yoruichi nodded and said, let's go to Shinigami, who is stationed in this world. When Ichigo heard this, he nodded and said, okay, let's go now. After saying that, he hugged Yoruichi and disappeared. After Ichigo and Yoruichi left, they also found out that they were gone, and under Hiriko Shinji's instructions, they also understood where Ichigo and the others went, so they didn't care. But some people were still a little unhappy, and they agreed because of Ichigo. On the other side, after Ichigo and Yoruichi came out, they went straight to Inoue Orihime's house, because Hitsugaya Toshiro was there. So Ichigo and Yoruichi went there and asked him to open the door to the Soul Society, and then Ichigo and the others went in to take a look at the strength of Captain Shinigami. Soon Ichigo and Yoruichi arrived at the door of Inoue Orihime's house. Chapter 225. Preparation 3. When they came to Inoue Orihime's house, Hitsugaya Toshiro and Matsumoto Rangaku also returned to Inoue Orihime's house. Seeing Ichigo and Yoruichi coming to Hitsugaya Toshiro, he asked, "Is something wrong, Lord Kurosaki?" Hearing this, Ichigo was very helpless, because I asked them to change their names, but they all remained the same, so Ichigo followed them. And Matsumoto Rangaku said, "The captain is really, let the guests come in." Hearing this, Hitsugaya Toshiro also reacted very embarrassedly and said, "Your Excellency Kurosaki, let's go inside and talk." With that said, he went into the house first, then Ichigo also took Yoruichi's hand and entered. After entering Inoue Orihime's room, Ichigo was surprised that there was nothing of Soul Society. But this is only missing in the living room, there must be in other rooms. In the original book, Hitsugaya Toshiro and the others put a large monitor in a room, so Ichigo thinks it should be in Hitsugaya Toshiro's room as well. After entering, Matsumoto Rangaku said to Ichigo and Yoruichi, "Need something to eat?" After hearing this, Ichigo said, "No, I'm here to tell you something, it's Aizen's business." Hitsugaya Toshiro became serious. And Hitsugaya Toshiro said to Ichigo, "Then it's up to me to contact the captain, let's talk together when the captain is there." Hearing this, Ichigo also nodded. Then Hitsugaya Toshiro led Ichigo and Yoruichi to the room of the machine that could communicate with Soul Society, and then Matsumoto Rangaku began to communicate with Soul Society. Advertisement. During this period, both Ichigo and Yoruichi were bored and went into the dungeon from time to time to pass the time. Of course, Hitsugaya Toshiro didn't know it. And soon contacted Soul Society. The screen shows the figure of the captain of Yamamoto Uenlaojai. And Hitsugaya Toshiro said to Yamamoto Uenlaojai's captain, "It's really rude to disturb you, the captain, next." Hearing this, Captain Yamamoto Uenlaojai said, "Don't talk about these nonsense, what's the matter, Captain Hitsugaya?" Hitsugaya Toshiro bowed to Captain Yamamoto Uenlaojai and said, "It's not that I am looking for Your Excellency the Chief Captain, but Your Excellency Kurosaki is looking for Your Excellency the Chief Captain." Then he came to the side and let the Yamamoto Uenlaojai captain see Ichigo and Yoruichi figure. After seeing Ichigo, Captain Yamamoto said, "What's the matter, Kurosaki kid?" Hearing this, a light flashed in Ichigo's eyes, but it disappeared immediately. Because Ichigo has heard a lot of things in the title of Yamamoto Uenlaojai's captain, I just think Yamamoto Uenlaojai's captain should already know Ichigo's identity and age. Otherwise, Ichigo wouldn't be called that, and Ichigo didn't say anything to Yamamoto Uenlaojai after hearing this, but said directly, "Master, Aizen is about to act, are you coming?" Hearing this, Captain Yamamoto Uenlaojai said, "Can't you beat it with your strength?" Hearing this, Yoruichi said, "This is not something I should tell you, old man Yamamoto." Hearing Yoruichi's words, Yamamoto Uenlaojai's chief captain said very sternly, "Don't be too complacent, Shihouin's kid," and opened one eye to look at Yoruichi. And Yoruichi came directly behind Ichigo, leaped ahead and grimaced at the captain of Yamamoto Uenlaojai, saying, "I'm not afraid of you." Advertisement. Seeing this scene, Hitsugaya Toshiro and Matsumoto Rangaku were full of fear and nervousness, because they were afraid that the captain of Yamamoto Uenlaojai would suddenly become angry. But Yamamoto Uenlaojai, the chief captain, was not angry at all, but after watching Ichigo for a while, he said, "We will go, when will Aizen come to life?" The corners of Ichigo's mouth twitched when he heard it, but he hid it immediately and said, "It should be 3 days later, even if it's a mistake, it's only a day or two away." Hearing this, the captain of Yamamoto Uenlaojai said directly, "Okay, I know, then I will arrange for someone to die in this world in 3 days. After hearing this, Ichigo also nodded, and Yoruichi said to him, "Old Yamamoto, go back, I'm going to hang out with my Ichigo." After hearing that, Yamamoto, the captain of Liaojai, was not angry, but directly cancelled the connection from the other side. Hearing this, Hitsugaya Toshiro also breathed a sigh of relief, because he didn't know how to get along with Ichigo, so he hoped that the tomb could be ended sooner. And Ichigo looked at Hitsugaya Toshiro and Matsumoto Rangaku and said, "Want to level up?" So Hitsugaya Toshiro was very scared. Hearing this, they were both stunned. Seeing this scene, Yoruichi smiled and said, "This old stubborn is still the same." Hearing this, Ichigo said to him, "I don't have anything to do now, I'm leaving now." But I was relieved to see that Yamamoto, the chief captain of Liaojai, didn't take it seriously at all. Hearing Yoruichi's words, Hitsugaya Toshiro and Matsumoto Rangaku were also terrified, because it was the first time they had seen someone speak to Captain Yamamoto Uenlaojai like this. Although Zaraki Kenpachi and Jing Li Wanghao, La Chunshui are also very disrespectful to Yamamoto Uenlaojai, but they are not as direct as Yoruichi. Hitsugaya Toshiro asked Ichigo, "Is there anything else, Lord Kurosaki?"